Chapter 1389. Moreover, if Yi Xian merged with the heavenly heart of chaos and inherited the seat of the supreme demonic lord, how would Yi Xian be able to control him? The reason was simple. Yi Xian's ambition was not just to become the supreme demonic lord. He wanted to surpass the supreme demonic lord and even surpass the so-called taboo characters. Moreover, the supreme demonic lord's seat was not compatible with him. Yi Xian wanted to walk his own path. Although he had the demonic nature, he could control it freely. Even if he obtained the heavenly heart of chaos left behind by the supreme demonic lord, he could not become the supreme demonic lord. It was the same principle as how water and fire could not coexist. If Yi Xian really inherited the supreme demonic lord's seat, Yi Xian naturally had the means to control him. Moreover, Yi Xian also believed that he could truly become the supreme demonic lord before Yi Xian became the supreme demonic lord. He might even be able to wrestle with the taboo characters. The strong were invincible, and the strong were confident. Yi Xian had never lacked an invincible heart. He believed that he must be the strongest. If he had fear in his heart, he would not have reached where he was today. Kill. The massacre continued. The demonic roars shook the sky. The entire glacier city was covered in snow. However, the entire glacier city had turned into a living hell. Severed limbs could be seen everywhere on the streets. The snow-covered city was already dyed red with blood. Time passed by bit by bit. The creatures in the ice river city gradually died down until it turned into a dead city. There was no more movement. Only Yi Xuanma's angry roar could be heard. The six desires are emotionless. The world is heartless. This child has finally been demonized. From now on, he can become the sharpest blade in my hand. Wherever my blade points, I will kill them all. Wonderful, wonderful. Yi Xian clapped his hands and lightly laughed. The corners of his mouth curled into a trace of praise. In his eyes, the lives of the living beings in the city were nothing more than mediocre. The most important thing was to be able to create a demon's son that he wanted. How dare you? Which demon dares to massacre an entire city? Suddenly, an extremely terrifying aura covered the sky and covered the earth. That sword light cut through the clouds of heaven and earth, and the firmament for thousands of miles shook. Clearly, the slaughter of the living beings in Ice River City had alarmed a certain almighty Qi. The sword split the sky, causing the world to explode. This sword was like a stream of stars, and it was filled with yin and yang qi. Clearly, this person was a terrifying figure at the yang birth realm. Bang! Wow! The sky exploded and the mountains and rivers collapsed. The sword landed directly on Yi Xuanma's body, causing him to fall from the sky. A large amount of demonic blood spurted out. How dare you massacre a city in my lunar sky sect's territory? Today, I won't let you live. Qi. A woman in white appeared in the sky above the ice river city. Yin and yang qi revolved around her, and the ice autumn water sword in her hand exploded with a terrifying sword light. The clouds in the sky within millions of miles were trembling. Her power was simply terrifying to the extreme. On the other hand, although Yi Xian had already been possessed by the devil, his cultivation was no match for this woman's at all. Therefore, he was completely knocked out by this blow. Slay evil, slay evil, slay. The woman in white was incomparably cold. With a slash of her sword, the yin and yang energies turned the world upside down. Apparently, she was going to kill Yi Xuanma on the spot. Clang! Suddenly, a dark figure blocked in front of Yi Xuanma. With a flick of his finger, he shattered the woman's sword light. Then, with his hands behind his back, he looked at the woman calmly. Who are you? The woman in white's expression changed. She did not dare to say that she had used 100% of her cultivation in that attack, but at least 60%. However, This man in black who had suddenly appeared had easily broken her attack. Moreover, the most shocking thing for the woman in white was that she could not see through his cultivation. Did this not mean that his cultivation was much higher than hers? How dare a mere Yang Life Realm cultivator act so presumptuously in front of me? Looks like you're tired of living. At this moment, Yi Xian was in a good mood. After all, he had finally made Yi Xuanma into the devil's son he wanted. However, he did not expect that someone would come out of nowhere. This immediately put him in a bad mood. When Yi Xian was in a bad mood, he would want to kill someone. Therefore, this woman in white was probably in danger. I'm Lin Qing, of the Lunar Sky Sect. May I know where you are from and what's your name? The woman in white frowned slightly. Fear flashed across her eyes as she looked at Yi Xian. Get lost. Yi Xian did not want to bother with this woman. He had already achieved his goal and naturally did not want to create more trouble. You. When had Lin Qing ever suffered such humiliation? She was the third elder of the Lunar Sky Sect. Wherever she went, she would be treated as an honored guest. However, today, she was insulted by a stranger. Although Lin Qing was burning with anger, she did not lose her mind. She could completely sense that Yi Xian's cultivation was much higher than hers. Therefore, she did not dare to offend him easily. Fellow Taoist, this demon has already violated the taboo of the Grand Yin Heavenly Sect by massacring the entire city. As the Inspector Heavenly Ambassador of the North, I naturally have to punish him. Please do me a favor. Lin Qing suppressed her anger and said. Lunar Sky Sect. Northern Region Inspector Heavenly Ambassador. Yi Xian frowned slightly. He had never heard of these two names. However, Yi Xian did not need to think too much about it. It should be a great sect in the Northern Star Field. Looking at Yi Xian's frown, Lin Qing's eyes moved and said, I presume you are not from the Northern Star Field. Lin Qing was very smart. The Northern Region Alliance and the Lunar Sky Sect were famous. All the cultivators in the Northern Region knew about them. Yi Xian looked puzzled. Lin Qing was enough to determine that Yi Xian was not from the Northern Star Field. He was probably a powerful figure from another field. Qing. Suddenly, two flowing lights streaked across the sky and appeared in front of Lin Qing. One of them was tall and handsome, while the other was thin. Obviously, they were her companions. Fourth Elder, a demon has massacred the city. I wonder who this friend is and why he wants to protect this demon. Lin Qing said in a low voice. Humph. The handsome young man's expression changed. He immediately looked at Yi Xian. However, he was in the extreme Yin realm, which was one realm lower than Lin Qing. How dare you, evil demon? How dare you protect the demon? Surrender now, or we will kill you. The handsome young man shouted. Ignorant dog. Yi Xian's eyes turned cold. He did not have time to waste on this person. His 5 fingers suddenly stretched out toward the sky. Suddenly, the sky and earth froze. A giant palm suddenly fell toward the young man. Bang! Yi Xian's cultivation was at the Tao querying realm, and his battle prowess was terrifying to the extreme. With this great technique, the valiant youth didn't even have the slightest ability to resist. He was instantly shattered by the giant palm, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky and his soul scattered between heaven and earth. How is this possible? The next moment, Lin Qing's face turned pale. She took a few steps back and looked at Yi Xian with fear in her eyes. Chapter 1390. She knew that Yi Xian was very strong. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break her sword light so easily. However, she did not expect Yi Xian to be so strong that he could obliterate an extreme Yin cultivator with just one strike. You're in the Tao querying realm? Lin Qing asked in a trembling voice. Drops of cold sweat dripped from her forehead. It was obvious that she had encountered a Dao querying realm cultivator. You sure have a lot of nonsense to say. I'll send you on your way. Rumble. Yi Xian raised his 5 fingers. It was as if he was lifting up the sky. Terrifying waves of energy swept across the area. It was as if this strike could destroy the heavens and earth. However, just as Yi Xian was about to kill this woman with one strike, his face froze. The great technique that he had gathered dissipated instantly. He looked towards the skinny man. He saw that the man was dressed in black. His skin was slightly sallow and his eyes were slightly small. He gave off a wretched feeling. Anyone who looked at him would not like him. Elder, leave quickly. I'll stop this man. The man shouted righteously. He even urged Lin Qing to escape. Deacon Huang, I'm sorry. Lin Qing instantly turned into a ray of light and escaped. She did not know why Deacon Huang, who had always been timid, chose to stand in front of her at this critical moment. However, she did not think too much about it. After all, facing a Dao querying realm cultivator was a dead end. The only right choice was to escape. Deacon Huang had just entered the Supreme Saint realm. It was reasonable for her to use his life in exchange for hers. Lin Qing disappeared instantly. Only Yi Xian, Deacon Huang, and the unconscious Yi Xian were left in this area. Logically speaking, if Yi Xian wanted to kill someone, this person would definitely die. There was no way he could escape from his control. However, when Yi Xian saw Deacon Huang, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. His face actually revealed a long-lost joy. Therefore, Yi Xian did not stop Lin Qing from escaping. Instead, he generously spared her life. Sir. When Deacon Huang addressed Yi Xian as Mr., his originally calm expression began to become excited. His slightly wretched appearance warmed Yi Xian's heart. Deacon Huang was naturally Fatso Huang. He was also Yi Xian's most loyal confidant. It was unexpected that after thousands of years, the two of them would meet again in the North Star sector. After so many years, I almost thought you were dead. Yi Xian laughed and scolded. Fatso Huang trotted towards Yi Xian and gave Yi Xian a big hug. His face was filled with excitement. Ha ha ha, how could Fatso Huang dare to die? If I die, I won't be able to see Mr. anymore. Although thousands of years had passed, Fatso Huang's character had not changed at all. He was still as humorous as before. Although his squinted eyes looked wretched, the look in his eyes when he looked at Yi Xian was extremely loyal. I knew you were born despicable and shameless. You're full of evil tricks. You must still be alive in this world. Yi Xian laughed and scolded Fatso Huang as he punched him in the chest. Mister, after being separated from you for so many years, I don't know what to say. Fatso Huang smiled bitterly. In these thousands of years, he had been through a lot. He had finally stepped into the Great Saint realm and became a small deacon in the Grand Yin Sky sect. This is not the place to talk. Let's go. Yi Xian rolled up his sleeves and took the unconscious Yi Xian Mo and Fatso Huang away. The three of them instantly disappeared from the Ice River City. It was snowing heavily on the cold mountain. On the peak of Mount Han, on this snowy day, a pavilion towered over Mount Han. Two figures sat across from each other. A pot of fine wine was burning on a white jade table, the fragrance of wine constantly wafting out from it. Mister, I'd like to propose a toast to you. Fatso Huang filled Yi Xian's cup with wine. Then, they clinked their cups and drank it in one gulp. Then, they both burst into laughter. After so many years, you've just stepped into the Great Saint realm. Your progress is too slow. Yi Xian teased. Mister, I don't have your aptitude. I'm already satisfied that I can step into the Great Saint realm. Naturally, I can't compare with you. Fatso Huang laughed. I know you don't like to cultivate. It's just that the 5 regions of chaos are full of dangers. It's not like the untainted land. I'm always worried about your and Beichen's safety. Now that I see you, I'm relieved. Yi Xian was gratified. He, mister, you underestimate me. Although my cultivation is not good, I know the way of survival like the back of my hand. I've been cultivating wholeheartedly for thousands of years. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to see you again. Fatso Huang said excitedly. Is Beichen with you? The two chatted casually for a while. Then, Yi Xian finally asked about Gu Beichen's whereabouts. Don't worry, mister. Beichen is doing much better than me. He's already the first spiritual son of the Sun Sky sect. He's famous in the entire Beichen star field. As Fatty Huang spoke, he began to tell the story of how they came to the northern star domain, causing Yi Xian to listen attentively. It turned out that when Yi Xian and the others encountered the space bugs, Yi Xian opened a bloody path for them to escape. Needless to say, Luo Ho, Yuan Ling, and the others, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen's cultivation were the weakest. Their relationship was also the best. Naturally, they took care of each other. In the end, they escaped from the space bugs. However, the two of them were seriously injured. They eventually fell into the Beichen star field and separated on that day. Fatso Huang was lucky. Although he was seriously injured, his life was not in danger. The Taiyin Sky sect happened to pass by. Seeing that he was a small saint, they brought him back to the sect. What happened next was simple. With Fatso Huang's scheming and glib tongue, he successfully entered the Taiyin Sky sect. He went from a small disciple to the current Deacon Huang. The Deacon Huang of the Taiyin Sky sect was neither high nor low. He was considered a powerful figure in the sect. Moreover, Fatso Huang was good at currying favor. He could be said to be doing well in the Taiyin Sky sect. When Fatso Huang gained a foothold in the Taiyin Sky sect, he naturally went to look for Yi Xian and the others. Unfortunately, he did not hear of Yi Xian's name in the entire Beichen star field. Moreover, it was not only Yi Xian who did not hear of him. He did not even have any news of Luo Ho, Yuan Ling, and the others. Fortunately, he found Gu Beichen. Gu Beichen did not have such a good opportunity like Fatso Huang. He was seriously injured and had to recuperate alone. Moreover, he cultivated demonic techniques. His murderous demonic aura was regarded as demonic by others. Originally, demonic cultivators were not a big deal. After all, demonic cultivators were everywhere in the Beichen star field. However, Gu Beichen had followed Yi Xian for a long time. Naturally, he was tainted with Yi Xian's murderous and decisive personality. When Gu Beichen recovered from his injuries and wandered around the Beichen starfield, he casually killed a few sect disciples. This caused him to be in big trouble. Chapter 1391. Several major sects joined forces to hunt him down. It could be said that Gu Beichen had nowhere to go. There were several times when he almost died in the hands of these sections. However, Gu Beichen's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. In just 2 million years, he stepped into the Great Saint realm. 3 million years later, he stepped into the Saint King realm. Gu Beichen was also very famous. This naturally attracted the attention of some major sections. The Solar Sky sect master came personally and accepted Gu Beichen as his disciple. He also allowed Gu Beichen to join the Solar Sky sect. For a time, no one dared to hunt Gu Beichen down. Fatso Huang also found Gu Beichen. The two of them could be considered to have gained a foothold in the Beichen star field. Another 10 million years passed. Gu Beichen had already stepped into the second creation realm. He could be said to be a genius in the Beichen star field. He even became the first spiritual son of the Solar Sky sect. As Fatso Huang spoke slowly, Yi Xian's mouth curved into a smile. The two of them were still alive and well. This was enough to make Yi Xian feel gratified. After all, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen had been by his side since the beginning of the human world. Until now, they had come to the chaotic world. These two were not relatives, but they were better than relatives. "Sir, what's your cultivation now?" Fatso Huang squinted his eyes and looked at Yi Xian excitedly. "Path Querying Realm. However, according to my combat strength, no one in the Path Querying Realm should be able to stop me. Unless someone in the Immortal Realm intervenes, I can go anywhere in the Beichen star field," Yi Xian said honestly. "Path Querying Realm?" Fatso Huang's eyes lit up. His face was flushed with excitement. He had vaguely guessed that Yi Xian's cultivation must be very high, but he did not expect it to be so high. One had to know that those ultimate seeds were only at the Yang Birth Realm. Perhaps some heaven-defying demons were also at the Tao Querying Realm. However, it was impossible for them to have Yi Xian's terrifying battle prowess and cultivation level. Although he had not seen Yi Xian for over 10 million years, Fatso Huang knew Yi Xian well enough to know that those ultimate seeds were nothing compared to Yi Xian. Moreover, a Tao Querying Realm cultivator could already establish a mid-tier Tao orthodoxy. In the North Star domain, he was definitely an overlord. The Lunar Sect Master was only a Tao Integration Realm Third Realm Tao Querying Realm cultivator. However, the Lunar Sky Sect was very famous in the entire North Star starfield. Once the Lunar Sect Master reached the Immortal Realm, the Lunar Sky Sect would become a top sect in the North Star starfield. "Sir, what are your plans?" Fatso Huang narrowed his eyes and asked Yi Xian softly. No one knew Fatso Huang better than Yi Xian. Every time Fatso Huang showed this expression, Yi Xian knew that Fatso Huang was definitely up to no good. "I have no plans to return to the Grand Central Territory for the time being. When I reach the Immortal Realm, I will naturally return to the Grand Central Territory." Yi Xian had also briefly recounted his experiences. This also allowed Fatso Huang to understand why Yi Xian had come to the North Star starfield. "Sir, I have a suggestion. Since you will be staying in the North Star starfield for the time being, you will need a suitable identity. Moreover, you will need a lot of resources for your cultivation. I wonder if you have any thoughts about the position of the Lunar Sect Master?" Fatso Huang said sinisterly. "Oh. What do you mean?" Yi Xian smiled mockingly. He knew that Fatso Huang was up to no good. "Sir, the Lunar Sect occupies hundreds of millions of miles of Mount Han. It is considered an overlord in the entire North Star starfield. If you want to cultivate, you will naturally need endless resources. The Lunar Sect is naturally the best choice. Moreover, I have been in the Lunar Sect for so many years. As long as you and I show some tricks, we can completely dominate the Lunar Sect. Moreover, it is not just the Lunar Sect. That kid in the North Star Sect is the first spiritual son of the Solar Sect. The three of us can completely integrate the two sections. Although we may not be able to dominate the North Star starfield, we will definitely be one of the top sects in the North Star starfield. At that time, we will plunder endless resources, which will also allow Sir's cultivation to improve by leaps and bounds." Fatso Huang chattered endlessly, telling Yi Xian all the advantages and disadvantages. His face was filled with excitement throughout. Without Yi Xian by his side, Fatso Huang could be said to be well-behaved and did not dare to cause trouble. However, Yi Xian's appearance had emboldened him. "Your suggestion is not bad. The position of the Lunar Sect Master is indeed a good identity. Moreover, it can also give me a stable cultivation environment." Yi Xian nodded approvingly. "However, sir, with your cultivation, can you kill the Lunar Sect Master? He is an existence of the Tao Integration Realm. He is only one step away from the Immortal Realm. Moreover, there are many Supreme Elders in the Lunar Sect. Rumor has it that two of them are existences of the Tao querying realm. I am afraid that this matter, Fatso Huang hesitated. Although his plan was good, in the end, he still needed Yi Xian to act. If Yi Xian could not kill the lunar sect master and the supreme elders, all his plans would be useless. Tao integration realm. Supreme elder. Yi Xian muttered softly. A strange smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. He said, I am not sure if I can kill the lunar sect master of the Tao integration realm. However, there is no harm in trying. Yi Xian was a person who would never do anything that he was not confident of. Although the Tao integration realm was the third realm of the Tao querying realm, and Yi Xian was only at the first realm of the Tao querying realm, his combat strength was definitely not as simple as that. Yi Xian did not dare to say whether he could kill the lunar sect master or not. However, he was certain that with his cultivation and combat strength, the other party could not do anything to him. Fatso Huang knew Yi Xian too well. Hearing Yi Xian say this, Fatso Huang's eyes lit up. He was even more delighted. He knew that Yi Xian definitely had a certain level of confidence. Sir, I will have to trouble you a little. When the time comes, what you have to do. Fatso Huang began to talk about his plan. Yi Xian listened with a smile. After half an hour, Fatso Huang and Yi Xian finally decided on a plan. The two of them also planned to head to the lunar sect together. However, before that, Yi Xian still had one more thing to do. Naturally, this was Yi Xian Mo. The cold wind whistled and snow fell heavily. A simple tombstone stood at the peak of Mount Han. Yi Xian Mo knelt before the tombstone with a haggard face. He exuded a ruthless aura, as if he had lost the vitality that a human should have. You have knelt for 3 days. It should be enough. Your future is in your own hands. Yi Xian strolled over and stood behind Yi Xian Mo. Given your cultivation, I don't believe that you can't save my mother. Finally, Yi Xian Mo's eyes focused. He slowly rose to his feet and looked back at Yi Xian. You're right. I can save her. However, you have to remember that I don't owe you and your mother anything. If it weren't for me, not only would your mother have died, you would have died too. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have your current cultivation. You wouldn't have been able to turn from a mortal into a saint king. This is a great opportunity that I have bestowed upon you. Therefore, you owe me. Yi Xian said ruthlessly. You're right. I do owe you. However, I hate you very much. I hate that you have treated me like a puppet. Yi Xian Mo said in a low voice. The light of extreme demon rippled slightly. Chapter 1392. It doesn't matter if you hate me or resent me. You just have to remember that the strong are like the heavens and the weak are like dogs. Because you're weak, you can only be manipulated by me. If you don't want to be my puppet, then you have to surpass me. I'll wait for the day when you surpass me. Yi Xian said coldly. Tell me, what do you need me to do? Yi Xian had already grown up. He was no longer the young man of yesterday. The moment he turned into a demon, he had already understood many things. I want you to head to the Grand Central Domain. I want you to join the Extreme Demon Heavenly Palace until you obtain the Heavenly Heart of Chaos left behind by the Lord of Extreme Demon and become the strongest throughout history. Yi Xian said. Alright, I still have to thank you for giving me the chance to become the strongest. Yi Xian said sarcastically. The chance is in your hands. When you become the strongest in the future, you just have to do one thing for me and we'll call it even. Yi Xian said calmly. Alright, I promise you. Yi Xian agreed because he knew that he was powerless against Yi Xian. Moreover, he knew clearly that if he dared to resist, this demon before him would kill him without hesitation. However, with my cultivation, I can't cross over. How do I get to the Grand Central Domain? Yi Xian asked. Boom. Time flowed and the sky and space were filled. Yi Xian casually threw out a stream of Milky Way. The terrifying power of time turned into a gate and one could vaguely see the outline of the Grand Central Domain. After crossing this gate, you'll enter the Grand Central Domain. Go on. Yi Xian waved his sleeves and pushed Yi Xian into the gate. Buzz. The gate closed and Yi Xian disappeared. With Yi Xian's cultivation of the Tao querying realm and the power of time and space, he could already open up a passageway. From this, one could see that Yi Xian's cultivation had indeed reached a terrifying level. Mister, this kid hates you. If he becomes the strongest in the future, I'm afraid he will become a hidden danger sooner or later. Fatso Huang slowly walked over and reminded. Yi Xian smiled cruelly and said, "It would be good if he obediently listened to me. If he dares to resist in the slightest, I don't mind letting him die without a burial ground. After all, the Lord of the Extreme Devil is his best example. Sir, you're a genius who can control the universe. How can a mere puppet escape from your grasp?" Fatso Huang flattered. "You rascal." Looking at Fatso Huang's flattering smile, Yi Xian felt a sense of closeness. Although Yi Xian never trusted anyone, Fatso Huang was able to make him trust him. This was because this was a friendship that had been built up along the way. "Let's go to the Lunar Sky Sect." Yi Xian called out to Fatso Huang, and the two turned into rays of light and headed north. As for what kind of opportunities Yi Xian would encounter in the Grand Central Territory and whether he could enter the Extreme Devil Heavenly Palace, it would all depend on his own ability. However, Yi Xian was very confident that Yi Xian would not let him down. He believed that when they met again, Yi Xian would definitely have grown up. The Lunar Sky Sect. It was one of the top forces in the Northern Star Territory. Although it did not have as deep a foundation as the top sects, it occupied hundreds of millions of miles of land and was revered by many cultivators in the northern region. There were many disciples in the Lunar Sky Sect and they were spread across the entire northern region. Wherever the people of the sect went, they would be treated as distinguished guests. From this, one could see how vast the influence of the Lunar Sky Sect was. It was not something that small sects could compare with. The Lunar Sky Sect was located in a small area in the north. The vast and endless cold mountains were covered by ice and snow. At a glance, it looked simple and grand, showing the power of a top sect. These thousands of miles of cold mountains were full of yin qi. For the people of the Lunar Sky Sect, this was the most suitable place to cultivate. This was also one of the reasons why the Lunar Sky Sect had a long history. From the outside to the inside of these thousands of miles of cold mountains, from the outer sect cultivators to the sect master, it could be said that there were many layers of selection. The stronger one's cultivation was, the larger the cold mountain they lived in, and the more abundant the yin qi there was. This also explained the cruel law of the northern region. Only the strong were worthy of better cultivation resources, and the weak could only live in places with weak yin qi. Qi. A cold light flashed across the sky. Fatso Huang and Yi Xian were flying side by side towards the cold mountain where they lived. As a deacon of the Lunar Sky Sect, Fatso Huang's authority was not great, but it was not small either. However, among the many deacons, he could be said to be the most popular. From his fellow elders to the disciples, Fatso Huang could get along well with everyone. Everyone had a very good impression of him. It could be said that in the entire Lunar Sky Sect, Fatso Huang had to give him some face wherever he went. Snow Bamboo Peak. This was where Fatso Huang cultivated. Snow Bamboo Peak was covered in snow all year round, and contained a great deal of yin qi essence. Even in the central region of the thousands of miles of cold mountains, it was still a treasure ground. There were many trees and snow bamboo on this peak, and under the pressure of the falling snow, it was even more cold and threatening. At the top of Snow Bamboo Peak, there was an abode, a forest of snow bamboo, and a cold pond that emitted an extreme chill. Because it was located at the peak, outside of the forest of snow bamboo was a precipice and a sea of clouds. Cold chi rose, the snow bamboo swayed, and the endless sea of clouds slowly rose. There were even golden koi fish leaping out of the cold pond, causing splashes. Such a scene made one feel as if they were in a sacred realm. "Mister, please." Fatso Huang pushed open the door of the abode and invited Yi Xian in. Yi Xian looked at Fatso Huang's living environment with some interest, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Your residence is very elegant. It seems that you are living very comfortably in the Lunar Sky sect," Yi Xian said as he stepped into the abode. Fatso Huang also chuckled. They followed Fatso Huang back to the Lunar Sky sect. According to their plan, Fatso Huang would take Yi Xian to see the entry elders tomorrow and let Yi Xian join the Lunar Sky sect until they found a suitable opportunity to overthrow the entire Lunar Sky sect. In fact, Yi Xian thought that this would be a little troublesome. He could directly kill his way to the sect leader's hall and fight with the Lunar Sky sect leader. After all, violence was the most direct way. However, Fatso Huang dissuaded Yi Xian from this idea. After all, the Lunar Sky sect leader was a path integration stage cultivator who was only a step away from reaching the immortal stage. Moreover, there were a few grand elders around. It was safer to come up with a plan. In the abode, Yi Xian and Fatso Huang were chatting when the sound of rushing air came from afar. Before the person arrived at Snow Bamboo Peak, the voice had already reached Yi Xian and Fatso Huang's ears. "Is Deacon Huang back?" The voice belonged to a woman, and Yi Xian found it familiar. This was because the person who came was Lin Qing, whom he had almost killed previously. "Sir, this woman is the Lunar Sky Sect's Deacon Elder and one of the Northern Region Alliance's Inspector Heavenly Ambassadors. I stopped you from killing her because I wanted you to take her for your own use. This will be very useful for us to gain a foothold in the Northern Region," Fatso Huang said quickly. "Okay." Yi Xian nodded. He knew Fatso Huang's intentions. The two of them opened the door and walked out. They saw Lin Qing walking toward Snow Bamboo Peak. Chapter 1393. Cold light shot out from the sky. Lin Qing's expression was cold as she walked towards Snow Bamboo Peak. However, confusion flashed through her eyes from time to time. This was because Fatso Huang had just returned to the Taiyin Sky sect and the disciples had informed her of the news. Lin Qing clearly remembered that Fatso Huang had blocked that terrifying path-seeking cultivator in order to save her life. Fatso Huang would have died without a doubt, but how was he able to return safely? Lin Qing came to Snow Bamboo Peak with great confusion. She wanted to see if Fatso Huang had really returned alive. "Greetings, Elder Lin." As Lin Qing descended on Snow Bamboo Peak, Fatso Huang trotted over to greet her. Yi Xian strolled behind Fatso Huang with a warm smile on his face. "It's you." Lin Qing was surprised to see that Fatso Huang was still alive. However, when she saw Yi Xian appear here, her expression changed drastically. She even took a few steps back. "Elder Lin, Mr. Yi and I are best friends. Everything that happened before was a misunderstanding." Fatso Huang hurriedly took out the excuse that he had prepared beforehand. He even made Yi Xian into a good person. However, Lin Qing was still wary of Yi Xian. After all, Yi Xian had casually killed an extreme Yin cultivator. She had almost died at his hands. "You said that he wants to join our Taiyin Sky sect?" Lin Qing asked in shock. "That's right. Mr. Yi is a path-seeking cultivator. Moreover, we are best friends. If he can join our Taiyin Sky sect, our sect's strength will naturally increase greatly," Fatso Huang said. "But he just killed an elder of our Taiyin Sky sect. How do you explain this?" Lin Qing said coldly. Now that she was in the Taiyin Sky sect, Lin Qing had some confidence and was not afraid of Yi Xian attacking her. I'll naturally explain this to the sect master. I just hope that Elder Lin can put in a good word for me in front of the sect master. After all, you're the sect master's last disciple. I think it's a good thing for Mr. Yi to join our sect, Fatso Huang said calmly. Humph, that's impossible. Although he is a Dao Querying Realm cultivator, he has violated a taboo by killing a member of the Lunar Sky sect. I will report this matter to my master and the Northern Region Alliance. Lin Qing flatly refused, not because she had any prejudice against Yi Xian, but because Yi Xian always gave her an extremely dangerous feeling. This feeling made her shudder with fear, as if she would be swallowed into Yi Xian's stomach at any moment and end up without a corpse left. Boom! Lin Qing directly flew into the sky, obviously preparing to leave this place and report this matter to the sect master. After all, Fatso Huang had brought back a terrifying Dao Querying Realm cultivator. This was no small matter to the Taiyin Sky sect. This is really troublesome. Without waiting for Lin Qing to leave, Yi Xian frowned slightly. His 5 fingers suddenly reached towards the sky, and Lin Qing was instantly pulled in front of him. His 5 fingers suddenly pressed on Lin Qing's head. Either you die, or you become my servant. If you say another word, I'll send you on your way. The smile on Yi Xian's face disappeared, and turned into an extremely sinister expression. He was not just saying. Anyone who disobeyed him would be killed immediately. You. Lin Qing's beautiful face changed drastically, and she was so frightened that she could not speak. This was because she could completely see the cold and cruel killing intent in Yi Xian's eyes. Lin Qing believed that Yi Xian was not trying to intimidate her, because she had experienced Yi Xian's cruel methods before. What do you want? Lin Qing trembled as she spoke, because there was no way she would become Yi Xian's servant. You talk too much. I'll send you on your way. Yi Xian did not have time to waste on this woman. His 5 fingers suddenly shook, and a world-shaking might spread out. Clearly, he was going to kill her in the next moment. But before Yi Xian could act, an extremely terrifying qi came from the center of Mount Han, and a deep voice resounded in the world. Fellow Daoist, your cultivation is Tong Tian. Today, you have graced my sect with your presence. I wonder how my disciple has offended you, to actually anger you. As this voice rang out, Yi Xian's expression did not change. Instead, a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he casually threw Lin Qing to the ground. I've heard that the lunar sect master's cultivation is Tong Tian, only a step away from the immortal realm. I've traveled the 5 regions of chaos for a long time, and I've always liked to make friends. I wonder if the sect master is willing to make friends with me. Yi Xian said indifferently, but his voice resounded throughout the lunar sect. Sir, you. Fatso Huang was suddenly shocked, because according to the plan they had set, he would be the one to recommend Yi Xian to the lunar sect. But now, what Yi Xian had done had already deviated from his plan. Actually, Yi Xian could not be blamed for not acting according to the plan, because he realized that if he followed Fatso Huang's plan, it would take too much time. As the saying went, the strong had to stand tall and show their unparalleled might. Yi Xian was in the Dao Querying realm, and his battle strength was even more terrifying. He could completely face the lunar sect master directly, and perhaps this was the simplest and most direct method. I've always liked to make friends. Fellow Daoist, you're a guest from afar, so please come to the palace for a chat. Rumble. The lunar sect master's voice resounded through the world, and a cold light flashed across the sky. This also made Yi Xian smile slightly, and he directly called Fatso Huang to step onto the flashing bridge, and the two of them strolled towards the lunar temple. Despicable guy. Watching Yi Xian and Fatso Huang disappear into the distance, Lin Qing's pale face was filled with fear. If not for the lunar sect master, she really felt that Yi Xian would have killed her. Lunar Temple. The cold mountain towered into the sky, and a vast ice palace stood at the peak of the cold mountain. From afar, it gave off a solemn feeling. As Yi Xian and Fatso Huang stood outside the lunar temple, the stone door of the lunar temple rumbled open. Yi Xian smiled slightly and walked into the lunar temple. As the saying went, one would not take on a porcelain job without a diamond. Although Yi Xian had just entered the Tao querying realm, he had experienced the most powerful battle in history, and he had confidence that others did not have. Even if the lunar sect master was a Tao querying realm figure, Yi Xian was not afraid at all. After all, his battle strength could not be underestimated by ordinary Tao querying realm cultivators. Although he could not use the future transformation technique, he still had the attack character formula and the tribulation transcender transformation. These two forbidden secret techniques were enough for him to not be afraid of the lunar sect master. Fellow Taoist, your presence brings light to the lunar sky sect. As soon as Yi Xian entered the main hall, he saw a young man in white leading a dozen people to welcome him. This white-robed man had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He looked to be about the same age as Yi Xian, but his eyes were slightly older and more ancient. It was obvious that he had lived for countless years. Obviously, this white-robed man was the lunar sect master. However, he did not reveal any power at this moment. Instead, he had a smile on his face as he welcomed Yi Xian. The people following him were obviously elders. Sect master is too polite. Yi Xian returned the greeting with a smile. Fellow Taoist, please take a seat. The lunar sect master smiled, but his eyes flickered slightly as he looked at Yi Xian. In fact, he was also observing Yi Xian's cultivation. Tao querying realm. Hiss. The lunar sect master's heart suddenly trembled. Although he could see that Yi Xian's cultivation was at the Tao querying realm, which was two small realms lower than him, for some reason, when he first saw Yi Xian, he actually felt a sense of danger. This person was not simple. With just one look, the lunar sect master made a judgment. Yi Xian was definitely not an ordinary Tao querying realm cultivator. Otherwise, with his Tao integration realm cultivation, he would not be afraid. At the lunar sect master's cultivation level, his intuition for danger was extremely sharp. Moreover, when he met Yi Xian's eyes, the lunar sect master's heart trembled violently. What kind of eyes were these? They looked as calm as water, without ripples. Occasionally, a flash of light would flash across his eyes, as if they were filled with extreme terror. This was no longer a simple kind of power, but a look that only a peerless vicious person who had walked through mountains of corpses and seas of blood could have. The lunar sect master was very polite. He was so polite that he put down the airs of a Tao integration realm cultivator. He also lowered his own status because he did not want to fight with an unpredictable vicious person. Whether he could suppress Yi Xian or not, he would definitely have to pay a huge price. Chapter 1394. The lunar sect master wasn't the only one observing Yi Xian. Yi Xian was also observing the lunar sect master. This was because Yi Xian had never met a Tao integration realm cultivator before. He didn't know how big the gap was between him and a Tao integration realm cultivator. However, when Yi Xian saw the lunar sect master for the first time, a smile appeared on his face. This was because the lunar sect master in front of him didn't give him too much pressure. Yi Xian's intuition told him that the lunar sect master was definitely not much stronger than him. If he went all out, there was a high chance that he could suppress the lunar sect master. This was a kind of instinct and intuition. It was like a tiger meeting a lamb. Even if both sides didn't know what species the other was, the suppression of their bloodlines would give people the most intuitive feeling. Although Yi Xian was already confident, he still appeared gentle. This was because there were several supreme elders following the lunar sect master. Some of them were in the Tao comprehending realm, while others were in the Tao querying realm. Their combined combat strength was still not something that Yi Xian could underestimate. Soon, under the lunar sect master's invitation, Yi Xian sat in the guest seat. In an instant, the atmosphere in the entire lunar temple became heavy. "May I know where the sacred mountain is? What business do you have with my lunar sky sect?" The lunar sect master smiled kindly. "I'm Yi Tian. I'm a rogue cultivator who likes to travel the 5 regions of chaos. Deacon Huang is coincidentally an old friend of mine." Yi Xian casually made up a lie to evade the lunar sect master. It could be considered as a simple explanation of his identity. However, no one present was a fool. Although Fatso Huang was a good person in the lunar sky sect, his cultivation had just stepped into the great sage realm. How could someone like him befriend someone like Yi Xian? Therefore, no one present believed Yi Xian's words. Instead, a trace of caution flashed through their eyes as they looked at him. Regardless of whether it was the lunar sect master or the supreme elders present, they were all people who had seen the world. They had seen many so-called strong cultivators, and Yi Xian just so happened to have the attitude of a strong cultivator. They had no choice but to treat him seriously. Although Yi Xian's aura was only at the Tao querying realm, the lunar moon sect master believed in her intuition and judgment. This black-robed man before her was definitely not simple. Fatso Huang bowed and said, "Sect master, Mr. Yi and I are old friends. He likes to travel around the 5 regions. Today, we are very happy to meet again. Mr. Yi also wants to join our Grand In Sky sect. I hope that the sect master will agree." This. The lunar sect master was clearly stunned. She did not expect Fatso Huang to make such a request. A Tao querying realm cultivator joining the lunar sky sect was indeed a joyous occasion. However, Yi Xian's origins were unclear. Moreover, he always gave off a dangerous aura. The lunar sect master instinctively felt that something was wrong. Moreover, Yi Xian had almost killed Lin Qing, just now. From this, she could tell that he was not a kind person. Of course, Yi Xian was not a kind person. However, the lunar sky sect was not a kind person either. From the sect master to the disciples, everyone could be said to be decisive in killing. After all, in the entire North Star domain, there was killing everywhere. Those with a kind heart could not survive in the North Star domain. However, the lunar sect master really did not intend to take Yi Xian in. "Deacon Huang, you are too reckless. Yi Dao Yu is a Tao querying realm cultivator. He already has the qualifications to establish a sect. How can our lunar sky sect, a small pond, wrong such a Tongtian character?" The lunar sect master was slightly harsh. In fact, she was also rejecting Yi Xian from joining the lunar sky sect. "Sect master, you must be joking. I am tired of traveling around the 5 regions. I am looking for a cultivation holy land to improve my cultivation. If the sect master does not mind, I am naturally willing to join your sect." Yi Xian smiled and said. "This." The lunar sect master frowned. She did not expect Yi Xian to personally ask. She did not know how to refuse. "What? Is the sect master not willing? Or do you look down on me?" The smile on Yi Xian's face gradually disappeared. His eyes narrowed slightly. There was a faint threat in his words. Yi Xian's attitude immediately caused the faces of the supreme elders to turn cold. They were already dissatisfied with Yi Xian. They also did not understand why the lunar sect master tolerated Yi Xian. Now that Yi Xian was boasting shamelessly and even threatening them, they immediately looked at Yi Xian with great hostility. "Master, we can't let this great demon join our sect." Suddenly, a cold light shot in. Lin Qing instantly appeared in the main hall. She looked coldly at Yi Xian. "Qing don't be rude." The lunar sect master frowned slightly. Although she did not like Yi Xian, calling him a great demon was a taboo. This was because the title of Great Demon was an existence that everyone in the North Star domain wanted to kill. Master, listen to me, Lin Qing quickly recounted the massacre in Glacier City. She also told her master that Yi Xian had killed the sect's elder. The atmosphere in the main hall gradually turned cold. Yi Daoyu, is what my disciple said true? The lunar sect master's face gradually turned gloomy. The aura of the Dao integration realm faintly leaked out. If everything Lin Qing said was true, she could not let Yi Xian join the lunar sect. Instead, she would have to ask Yi Xian for an explanation. Glacier City was under the jurisdiction of the lunar sect. The massacre of the entire city was a slap to the lunar sect's face. Moreover, Yi Xian had killed their elder. This was a provocation to the lunar sect. If they let Yi Xian go easily or pretended that nothing had happened, the lunar sect would become the laughing stock of the North Star domain. Looking at the lunar sect master's gloomy face and the murderous eyes of the many grand elders, Yi Xian was as calm as a mountain. Instead, his lips curled into a deep smile. What she said is true, but so what? Yi Xian said calmly. However, Fatso Huang behind him secretly broke out in cold sweat. Fatso Huang was deeply afraid that a great battle would break out. No matter how strong Yi Xian was, he was up against an entire sect. Moreover, the lunar sect master was in the Dao integration realm, only a step away from the immortal realm. Even if Yi Xian could resist the lunar sect master, the other grand elders were not to be trifled with. Fortunately, Fatso Huang was not flustered in the face of danger. Even though he was extremely nervous, he had a kind of paranoid trust in Yi Xian. He believed that since Yi Xian dared to come here, he must have his own confidence. Yi Daoyu, I've treated you as a guest, but you've protected a demon and killed my sect elder. Isn't this a bit unreasonable? Or do you think nothing of the lunar sect at all? The lunar sect master was not a pushover. If he were to treat Yi Xian kindly at this moment, how could he maintain the dignity of a sect master? Boom! The lunar sect master slammed the table and stood up. The table in front of him was reduced to dust. The terrifying aura of the Dao integration realm leaked out, and the entire lunar divine mountain shook violently at this moment. Chapter 1395. Ha ha ha. In the face of the lunar sect master's might, Yi Xian laughed loudly and said, Sect Master Su Wan is only one step away from attaining the immortal realm. Today, I would also like to experience the sect master's cultivation. Boom! Yi Xian slowly stood up, and the sky-burying technique was activated. A gray light burst out, making Yi Xian's entire being become deep and mysterious. A silent terror filled the entire great hall. Good, good, good. I would also like to experience your techniques. In this world, there was only the strong and the weak. There was no right or wrong. The so-called reason was only in the hands of the strong. At this moment, there was no need for the two of them to argue about who was right and who was wrong. Only a battle could truly resolve the current situation. Boom! The lunar sect master's cold light filled the sky, and 100 million miles of the world was covered in snow. He was a path integration realm cultivator, only one step away from attaining the immortal realm and becoming a sect master. Such a strong cultivator was naturally not afraid of a battle. Even if Yi Xian gave him a very dangerous feeling, his heart of a strong cultivator made him want to see what abilities Yi Xian had to dare to come to the lunar sky sect alone to behave so atrociously. Chi! The lunar sect master took a step forward and stood directly in the sky. Clearly, he wanted to fight Yi Xian in the sky dome. This was also a display of his might as a sect master. Boom! Yi Xian took a step forward and also appeared in the sky dome. He looked calmly at the lunar sect master, and a fiery light flashed in his eyes. Ever since the battle of the strongest of all ages, Yi Xian had been in a deep slumber for millions of years. Ever since he woke up, he had never truly battled with anyone. He also wanted to know how big the gap was between him and the Lunar Sect Master, who was a Path Integration Realm cultivator. Lunar 9 Severed Fingers. The Lunar Sect Master did not waste any time. A pair of sword fingers cut through the sky, and the aura of a Path Integration Realm cultivator exploded. The cold mountains within 100 million miles rumbled and shook. His entire person actually turned into 9 figures, and instantly charged toward Yi Xian. Interesting. Yi Xian's eyes lit up, because the Lunar Sect Master was actually giving him a lot of pressure. This kind of pressure made him extremely excited, as if he had found a worthy opponent. Bury. A simple word came out from Yi Xian's mouth. He pointed a finger at the sky, and the vast sky rumbled as a gigantic finger condensed. Rumble. Transcendence heaven and earth, all things sink into oblivion. This heavenly giant finger was a world-shaking technique that Yi Xian had unleashed. Its scale was 100,000 kilometers wide, and it was like a pillar of heaven and earth that could suppress mountains and rivers. It brought with it a terrifying and mighty force that could obliterate all things as it smashed towards the Lunar Sect Master. The Lunar Sect Master's expression changed drastically. Although he did not underestimate Yi Xian, he did not expect Yi Xian to be so terrifying. His opponent's world-shaking great art actually gave him a lot of pressure. If he were to face this attack head-on, he would also be severely injured. Intercept. The 9 illusions of the Lunar Sect Master overlapped. He also pointed a finger at the sky, and the world within 100,000 kilometers began to gradually freeze. The terrifying cold current seemed to freeze everything. It had to be said that as a Tao Integration Realm existence, the Lunar Sect Master was indeed extremely powerful. When he unleashed this great cold sky technique, he fully displayed the terrifying power of a Tao Integration Realm existence. If it were any other Tao querying cultivator, no one would be able to withstand this attack from the Lunar Sect Master. Unfortunately, he had encountered a freak like Yi Xian, who could not be judged based on cultivation level. Rumble. The heavenly giant finger descended, and the world within 100,000 kilometers exploded inch by inch. The great art that the Lunar Sect Master had unleashed collapsed, and it could not stop Yi Xian's world-shaking attack at all. It was not that the Lunar Sect Master was too weak, but that Yi Xian was too strong. Although he was only a Tao querying cultivator, his battle prowess was definitely comparable to a Tao Integration Realm cultivation level. The attack character formula, Calamity Transcendent Transformation, Heaven Burial Technique, and he was also proficient in various powerful techniques. When these were combined, how could the Lunar Sect Master possibly have the upper hand? Slash. The Lunar Sect Master's expression was solemn as a heavenly sword appeared in his hand. The heavenly sword had a terrifying aura, and it was obviously a chaos divine weapon. As he slashed out with the sword, it destroyed Yi Xian's heavenly giant finger. Although Yi Xian was very strong, the Lunar Sect Master was not weak either. As a Tao Integration Realm expert, he was not a pushover. Kill. The Lunar Sect Master's expression was extremely solemn. He had already regarded Yi Xian as a peerless enemy. At this moment, he had fully unleashed his cultivation level, and his entire person had merged with heaven and earth. With unimaginable killing intent, he attacked Yi Xian. What was the Tao Integration Realm? Merging with heaven, earth, and man. This was the so-called Tao Integration Realm. Heaven, earth, and man merged into one, and it was also the opportunity to step into the Immortal Realm. Although the Lunar Sect Master had not stepped into the Immortal Realm, the power that erupted from the merging of heaven, earth, and man was something that even Yi Xian did not dare to underestimate. Tribulation Transcender Transformation. Yi Xian roared, and his aura suddenly skyrocketed. In an instant, his aura was not weaker than that of the Lunar Sect Master. He also charged toward the Lunar Sect Master. The terrifying heaven-burying light shook heaven and earth, and it also carried an aura that could bury all things. At a glance, one's heart palpitated. Bang! 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 The two peerless experts instantly clashed, and in an instant, the heaven and earth within hundreds of millions of miles shook violently. Streaks of heavenly clouds were vaporized into smoke, and the occasional aftershock that shot out shattered the cold mountains into ashes. Terrifying, too terrifying. This was an extremely powerful battle below the immortal realm. The power that erupted from it could not be said to be earth-shattering, but it could definitely be said to be rare in the world. At this moment, everyone in the lunar sect was watching this battle. Fatso Huang kept rubbing his hands as he watched nervously. However, no one knew what the outcome of this battle would be. Rumble. The heaven and earth exploded, and the cold mountains were turned into ashes. The sky was cracked for thousands of miles. This battle lasted for a full 3 days and 3 nights. Then, a deafening explosion sounded, and the two figures landed on the peak of the lunar mountain at the same time. Ha ha ha, Yi Daoyou's cultivation is good. I admire you very much. The lunar sect master laughed wildly and cupped his hands toward Yi Xian. There was no longer any coldness on his face. It was as if there was an extremely warm expression on his face. Sect master's cultivation is Tongtian. It is indeed an eye-opener for me. Yi Xian returned the gesture with a smile. Since fellow Yi wants to join our lunar heavenly sect, our sect will naturally welcome you. With fellow Yi joining us, our lunar heavenly sect will become even more powerful, the lunar heavenly sect master said with a coarse laugh. Thank you for your help, sect master. Yi Xian cupped his hands and bowed. 3 days later, we will hold an entrance ceremony for you. In the future, Yi Daoyu will be the vice sect master of our lunar sect. The lunar sect master said with a smile. Master, shut up. Is this the place for you to speak? Without waiting for Lin Qing, to dissuade him, the lunar sect master's face turned cold as he scolded him fiercely. This caused Lin Qing's face to change, and she could only swallow the words in her mouth. Deacon Huang, since Yi Daoyu and you are old friends, he will stay at your snow bamboo peak for the next 3 days. After 3 days, Yi Daoyu will join our sect, and we will find another blessed land for him. The lunar sect master looked at Fatso Huang with a smile. Yes, sect master. Fatso Huang quickly bowed. Yi Xian and the lunar sect master bade each other farewell. Under the gaze of the lunar sect master, Yi Xian and Fatso Huang turned into beams of light and left. Seeing Yi Xian and Fatso Huang disappear, Lin Qing looked at the lunar sect master with a confused expression. Master, why did you let him go? He killed Hua. Suddenly, without waiting for Lin Qing to finish, the lunar sect master's rosy and smiling face turned pale. She spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back 3 steps. Master? Sect master? Lin Qing and the other grand elders' faces changed drastically. They were stunned on the spot, unable to believe what they had just seen. Yi Tian, what a Dao querying realm monster. Who the hell is he? The lunar sect master wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. Her face was extremely solemn, and when she opened and closed her eyes, they flashed with extreme fear. Chapter 1396. Snow Bamboo Peak. Yi Xian stood proudly at the peak of Mount Han as he looked down at the sea of clouds in front of him. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well, and his thoughts were slightly erratic. The 3 Dao querying realms were a process of comprehending the world of chaos and unearthing one's own potential. The Dao querying realm was to comprehend the world of chaos, touch the laws of chaos, and seek one's own truth. The Dao comprehending realm was to understand the essence of oneself and improve the power of one's divine soul, gradually molding it to perfection. The Dao integration realm was to merge with the heavens, merge with the earth, merge with the heavens, merge with the earth, and merge with the heavens. Only then would one have a chance to step into the immortal realm. Yi Xian was thinking about his future path. The heaven-burying art he created had already completed its initial prototype, and all that was left was to constantly perfect it until it reached perfection. However, Yi Xian now encountered a problem. The three Tao querying realms focused on the spiritual realm, and the power of the chaotic universe was used for one's own use. Yi Xian was different. He cultivated his own body and did not have a deep understanding of the chaotic universe. Even when he crossed the Great Sage Tribulation, he chose to break through all laws. How do I step into the Tao comprehending realm? Yi Xian muttered to himself. At this moment, this problem had become a knot in his heart. If he just blindly devoured cultivation, it would only increase his combat strength. What he wanted was to perfect his divine soul and improve his realm. The extreme of heaven and earth, the beginning of all laws. Where do laws come from, and where does the Tao come from? Yi Xian looked up at the sky and whispered, his whole person falling into thought. He needed a kind of epiphany, one that could help him break into the Tao comprehending realm. An ancient legend. There was once a heaven-defying genius who had a sudden epiphany and directly entered the Tao integration realm from the Tao querying realm. There was also a genius who comprehended the mysteries of chaos and directly entered the immortal realm. The three Tao querying realms did not focus on the growth of one's cultivation base, but on the understanding of the chaotic universe. A person was like a miniature chaotic universe, with endless mysteries hidden within. This was also a process of discovering oneself. As for how Yi Xian discovered himself, it depended on himself. This was not something external forces could help him with. One's cultivation could be boosted by resources or devoured with tribulation transcender techniques. However, Yi Xian could only rely on himself to increase his spiritual power. "Sir, what are you thinking about?" Fatso Huang silently appeared behind Yi Xian. He looked at Yi Xian in confusion because Yi Xian had been standing there for an entire day and night. "I'm thinking about what it means to comprehend the Tao, what it means to unite the Tao." Yi Xian turned around and smiled at Fatso Huang. With Mister's talent, a mere Tao querying realm 3 realms is nothing difficult. It's just that the opportunity hasn't arrived yet. I believe that you will definitely be able to break through the Tao querying realm 3 realms very quickly and become an immortal sect master level existence, Fatso Huang said with certainty. "Even though you like to flatter me, you're still speaking from the bottom of your heart," Yi Xian scolded jokingly. "Mister, you have the ability of a Tong Tian. How could I, Fatso Huang, be flattering you, ha ha ha." Fatso Huang laughed out loud. "However, Mister, I have a question. Why did the Lunar Sect Master suddenly change his mind and let you join the Lunar Sky Sect? What was the outcome of that battle between you and him?" Fatso Huang finally asked the question in his heart. "What was the outcome?" Yi Xian whispered. He looked at the flying snow in the sky, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. Then, he looked at Fatso Huang and said, "He is very strong and is indeed a character that cannot be underestimated. However, if we were to fight to the death, I am confident that I can kill him. This is also the reason why he gave in to me." Fatso Huang was shocked. He looked at Yi Xian in surprise and said, "Mister, do you mean that he was defeated by you in this battle? It can't be considered a defeat. After all, it wasn't a fight to the death. However, he was hit by my great art of chaos. He should be recuperating now," Yi Xian said indifferently. "I see." Fatso Huang nodded slowly. He finally knew why the Lunar Sect Master gave in. It turned out that the Lunar Sect Master was injured in the battle just now. This was the real reason. "However, Mister, there is something that I don't understand. Since you can suppress the Lunar Sect Master, why didn't you kill him just now? Even those Supreme Elders, if you use some trump cards, it wouldn't be difficult for you to kill all of them, right?" Fatso Huang said. "The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. I don't care about the Lunar Sect. This is just a temporary foothold for you and me. After all, I only want to break through to the immortal realm. Even if I take over the lunar sect, it won't do us much good. Why don't we let the lunar sect master be a puppet? You and I just need to control him from behind the scenes. Moreover, although the Northern Star region is not as big as the Grand Central region, there are still some great sects stationed here. Their sect masters are all at the immortal realm. If I am too conspicuous, I will definitely attract the attention of these immortal realm sect masters. This is not the result that I want to see. Yi Xian explained slowly. He was also explaining the reason for Fatso Huang's decision. Mister, you are wise. I am too utilitarian. Fatso Huang bowed and continued, however, Mister, there is one thing that you should pay attention to. There is a Northern Region Alliance in the Northern Star region. This Northern Region Alliance is considered a great force in the Northern Star region. It is also composed of many orthodoxies. There is no lack of immortal realm experts among them. They are strong enough to compete with the great sects in the Northern region. Northern Region Alliance. This was not the first time Yi Xian heard this name. Previously, Fatso Huang mentioned that Lin Qing was the Inspector Heavenly Ambassador of the Northern Region Alliance. Clearly, this Northern Region Alliance was not simple. The Northern Region Alliance does not have a fixed membership. However, the members are all from different orthodoxies. Even the great sects have to be wary of them. Fatso Huang explained slowly. Clearly, there were great sects in the northern region. For example, the lunar sect was only a mid-tier sect. They did not have any immortal realm experts. They could be swallowed up by these great sects at any time. Not only the lunar sect, but other sects were also in the same situation. Therefore, the Northern Region Alliance was born. Many orthodoxies and sects united together. This way, they could have an equal dialogue with the great sects in the northern region and fight for their rightful rights. According to Fatso Huang's introduction, the current leader of the Northern Region Alliance was the master of the Ether sect. This person had just stepped into the immortal realm 1,000,000 years ago. He also took over the position of the leader of the Northern Region Alliance. People like the master of the lunar sect were all elders of the Northern Region Alliance. Although many sects formed the Northern Region Alliance, each sect had their own selfish motives. The Northern Region Alliance was not an iron bucket. There were many internal disputes. However, when faced with the threat of the great sects, the disputes in the Northern Region Alliance would disappear. They would work together to fight against the great sects in the Northern region. Mister, if you can step into the immortal realm and control the Northern Region Alliance, you can use the Northern Region Alliance as a starting point to sweep across the Northern Star region and suppress all the great sections. By then, you will be the king of the Northern region. With the power of one region, you can sweep across the chaotic world. The more Fatso Huang spoke, the more excited he became. His eyes were shining. Chapter 1397. Power is fleeting. You're too naive. Before Fatso Huang could finish, Yi Xian interrupted him. His eyes were deep as he rejected Fatso Huang's idea. Mister, you. Fatso Huang was clearly stunned. He didn't understand the meaning behind Yi Xian's words. In the chaotic universe and the 12 periods, power is fleeting. There are only eternal experts and no eternal great sections. If I were comparable to an ultimate expert, I would be a sect by myself. I could destroy any power with a flick of my finger. The so-called orthodoxy and great sects are nothing but a joke in the eyes of an ultimate expert. Ever since he'd experienced the battle with the strongest of all times and found out about the existence of taboo characters, Yi Xian's horizons were no longer limited to the so-called powers. He deeply understood that no matter how powerful a power was, it was nothing more than paper in front of the strongest of all times. But you're right. Although I don't want to be the king of the northern region, if I can control the entire northern region, it would be beneficial for me. Yi Xian's tone changed. Although Yi Xian didn't want to create any power, being able to control a region was still a good thing for him. However, right now, his focus was on how to break through to the immortal realm. As for this matter, it was just a matter of convenience. Don't worry, mister. You only need to hold the fort behind the scenes. Leave the rest to me. I've already sent a message to Beichen. I believe it won't be long before he comes to see you. Fatso Huang said. Okay. Yi Xian nodded slowly and looked at the sea of clouds in front of him again. Fatso Huang also silently took his leave. He knew that Yi Xian was comprehending himself and looking for an opportunity to break through his cultivation base. 3 days later, in the lunar temple. The ancient bell continued to echo endlessly. In the lunar temple, the lunar sect master and the 4 supreme elders held an entrance ceremony for Yi Xian. It was a little strange that no disciples came to observe Yi Xian's entrance ceremony. Only Fatso Huang and Lin Qing were present. It was indeed a little shabby. After all, Yi Xian had joined the lunar sky sect and become the vice sect master. This was a big deal for the lunar sky sect. They should have sent out invitations to everyone to observe the ceremony. However, the lunar sect master didn't do so. She just went through the formalities and Yi Xian officially joined the lunar sky sect. However, Yi Xian didn't mind, because he knew very well that the lunar sect master was only trying to appease him. Letting him join the lunar sky sect was something he was forced to do. The entrance ceremony quickly ended. The lunar sect master handed a jade tablet to Yi Xian with a smile and said, "Fellow Yi, this is the vice sect master's token. From now on, you are the vice sect master of my lunar sky sect. If you need anything, you can instruct Deacon Huang to do it. You can cultivate in my lunar sky sect at ease." "Thank you, sect master." Yi Xian humbly received the command token. From beginning to end, his expression was extremely calm. This also caused the lunar sect master and the 4 supreme elders to hold their breaths. Fear clearly flashed through their eyes. Yi Xian was obviously an unstable factor. They weren't sure what his purpose was in coming to the lunar sky sect. However, the Alliance Grand Banquet was about to be held in the lunar sky sect. They couldn't afford to make any mistakes. "Yi Dao Yu, logically speaking, with your cultivation, we should send out invitations to everyone to join our sect. Today's entrance ceremony is indeed a little shabby. However, the Alliance Grand Banquet is in 10 years. This year's Alliance Grand Banquet will be held in the lunar sky sect. So, we can only inconvenience you." The lunar sect master pretended to be helpless. "We cultivators don't care about the red tape. Sect master, you don't have to blame yourself." Yi Xian smiled faintly. "Well, Yi Dao Yu is indeed a straightforward person. Then I won't keep you. If you need anything, you can send someone to inform me," the lunar sect master said. "Thank you, sect master." Yi Xian cupped his hands and bowed. He didn't stay and left the lunar temple with Fatso Huang. Seeing that Yi Xian and Fatso Huang had left, Lin Qing bowed to the lunar sect master and said, "Master, according to your instructions, I have investigated Yi Tian's background. I couldn't find any clues. Yi Tian is definitely not his real name. However, I have already expected this. Have you informed the sect leader of the ether?" The lunar sect master asked in a deep voice. "Master, I have already informed the sect leader of the ether according to your instructions. He asked me to tell you that in the Alliance Grand Banquet 10 years later, as long as you fulfill your promise to him, he will naturally help you to deal with Yi Tian." Lin Qing bowed and said. "Humph, he is indeed an ambitious person. However, this old bastard ether won't be proud for long. When I step into the immortal realm, he will no longer be qualified to threaten the lunar sky sect," the lunar sect master said in a cold voice. "Sect master, with the help of the sect leader of the ether, Yi Tian will definitely die. This is a plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. A Supreme Elder complimented. This Yi Tian's identity is mysterious and his combat strength is terrifying. Now that I am at the critical moment of stepping into the immortal realm, I can only give in to him. Using the old bastard ether to kill him is the best choice now. The Lunar Sect Master sneered. However, Sect Master, in the Alliance Grand Banquet 10 years later, the Lunar Sky Sect will give up so many benefits just to kill Yi Tian. Isn't it a little too unworthy? Another Supreme Elder frowned and said. What do you know? Sect Master is about to step into the immortal realm. Giving up the benefits now may seem harmful to our sect, but once you step into the immortal realm, we will get back the benefits we lost tenfold. At that time, our Lunar Sky Sect can change its name to the Lunar Sect. Another Supreme Elder said. There's no need for all of you to be anxious. In the future, my Lunar Sect will definitely flourish in my hands. Regardless of whether it's that old bastard Heaven or this Yi Tian, they're all mere ants beneath my feet. The Lunar Sect Master was brimming with ambition, and a cold killing intent occasionally flashed through her eyes. Unfortunately, the Lunar Sect Master did not know that the conversation between him and the Supreme Elders had been heard by Yi Xian. This made Yi Xian, who was far away in the sky, smile contemptuously. Initially, I didn't want to kill you so soon. Since you want to die, I can only fulfill your wish. Yi Xian said in a low voice. Then, he brought Fatso Huang back to the snow bamboo peak. Although Yi Xian's cultivation was in the Dao querying realm, his abilities were definitely higher than the Lunar Sect Master's. He had dabbled in many supreme skills. Listening to sounds from afar was a piece of cake for him. The Lunar Sect Master would never have thought that everything he said and the plan was under Yi Xian's control. The pitiful Lunar Sect Master was still dreaming of stepping into the immortal realm. However, he would never have thought that the opportunity to kill Yi Xian would bring about such a huge disaster for himself. Originally, Yi Xian did not want to kill him. He only wanted to make him a puppet. Yi Xian could hide behind the scenes. However, Yi Xian had changed his mind. This was because Yi Xian was an extremely vicious and cruel person. No matter who wanted him dead, Yi Xian would definitely kill them. This was also his principle. Chapter 1398. It was a cold and snowy day, and everything was silent. The entire snow bamboo peak was covered in snow. Yi Xian meditated in front of the sea of clouds every day. These days, he felt something in his heart, as if he had found an opportunity to enter the Tao comprehending state. The three realms of Tao seeking were the most miraculous realms. Because everyone was an individual, the things they comprehended were also different. The insights of others couldn't help Yi Xian, so he needed to comprehend his own things. This was the key to stepping into the Tao comprehending realm. The so-called opportunity could be a blade of grass or a grain of sand. It could also be the vast universe. It could even be an epiphany between life and death. This kind of opportunity could not be described in detail. It depended on the person. Some cultivators meditated for thousands of years and could only stay in the Tao querying state for the rest of their lives. There were also some who entered the Tao comprehending state in one day. There were even some who could enter the Tao comprehending state. Yi Xian believed that he had an invincible heart, as well as great courage and perseverance. Even if his physique was only a mortal body, he definitely wouldn't be inferior to those so-called battle physiques on the path of cultivation. Unfortunately, Yi Xian helplessly found that he was not one of those people who could reach the peak of the three states of Tao querying in one day. At this moment, he only had a little clue about the Tao comprehending state. Time passed quickly. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Yi Xian woke up from his thoughts. Fatso Huang had been standing behind him for a long time. Sir, there are only 7 years left before the Grand Assembly of the Alliance starts in the Lunar Sect. Don't you need to prepare? Fatso Huang reminded him. Entering the Tao querying state and meditating on my own body is my preparation. Yi Xian said lightly. The so-called preparation was just to strengthen himself. If he could enter the Tao comprehending state, his combat power would improve further. According to the lunar sect master, the master of the sect of Ether was in the immortal state and also the leader of the Northern Region Alliance. However, he had just entered the immortal state. Compared to the sect master of Butian, who had been in the immortal state for a long time, he was worlds apart. According to Yi Xian's estimation, since he was able to suppress the lunar master, a path reunion cultivator, in the Tao querying realm, he might be able to fight with the master of the sect of Ether, who had just entered the immortal realm, when he entered the Tao comprehending realm. However, this was just Yi Xian's speculation. He was not sure whether he could defeat the master of the sect of the Ether. Although there was only a small gap between the immortal realm and the convergence realm, the gap between the two realms was not that simple. Immortal Sect Master. From this title, one could tell how terrifyingly powerful the immortal realm was. The gap between them was absolutely terrifying. However, Yi Xian really wanted to give it a try. When he stepped into the Tao comprehending realm, he could fight against an early immortal realm expert. If he could remain undefeated, it would give him a new definition of his combat strength. Sir, what are you thinking about? Looking at Yi Xian deep in thought, Fatso Huang probed. Fatso Huang, are you willing to practice my cultivation method? Yi Xian raised his eyes and looked at Fatso Huang. His expression became serious. This also startled Fatso Huang. He quickly nodded and said, Sir, of course, it's not an ordinary method. Of course, I'm willing to learn it. In fact, Yi Xian felt a little ashamed of Fatso Huang. Fatso Huang had been following him for a long time and had always been loyal to him. However, Yi Xian was only in the Great Sage realm now. This made Yi Xian want to help Fatso Huang. This method is called the Sky Burying Skill. It's a method that I created. This method incorporates the omnipotent methods. It's very difficult to practice. However, if you can successfully practice it, you'll be invincible in the same realm. It's not impossible for you to fight against those in a higher realm. Yi Xian said solemnly. He wasn't bragging. Although the Sky Burying Skill had just been established and wasn't perfect, it had already begun to take shape. The power contained in it wouldn't be inferior to the omnipotent methods. Thank you very much for your generous gift, sir. Fatso Huang's face lit up with joy. He had been stuck in the Great Sage realm. He hadn't made the slightest progress for so many years. He knew that his aptitude wasn't good. However, Fatso Huang also wanted to strengthen himself. In fact, it's the best choice for me to teach you the omnipotent methods. After all, this is a cultivation method created by the omnipotent methods since ancient times. It's already in the process of perfection. However, I've decided to teach you the Sky Burying Skill in order to avoid too much involvement between you and them. Moreover, I believe that this method will surpass the omnipotent methods in the future. Yi Xian said solemnly. He pointed his finger at Fatso Huang and poured the Sky Burying Skill he created into Fatso Huang's saint soul. This was the first time Yi Xian had taught the Sky Burying Skill to an outsider. Fatso Huang had followed him for so many years. If it were someone else, Yi Xian would never have rashly taught them the Sky Burying Skill. Wine. Yi Xian waved his hand, and a large number of saint pills and spirit essences piled up like a mountain. They directly erupted with bright light, causing the spirit chi of the entire snow bamboo peak to become as thick as water. I originally wanted to teach you the Calamity Transcender method. If you have this method in hand, you can devour the cultivation of others. However, I have an agreement with the heaven-devouring demon lord that the Calamity Transcender method will not be taught to others. Moreover, although the Calamity Transcender method allows you to devour the cultivation of others, it's also very easy for your heart demons to breed. These cultivation resources are enough for you to step into the Saint King realm. This is your best choice, Yi Xian said softly. Sir must be joking. I can't learn the Calamity Transcender method. Although this method allows one to progress very quickly, with my temperament, I'm afraid that sooner or later, I will suffer from cultivation deviation and die. It's better for me to obediently follow Sir as a lackey, Fatso Huang said with a smile. I don't have many friends in my life. Although you and Bei Chen are my master and servant, you are also my brothers. Besides Brother Bai Yi, the two of you are the ones I trust the most. Loneliness. With a self-deprecating smile, Yi Xian's temperament was a little lonely. As he said, he had been too lonely along the way. His relatives were buried in the yellow earth, his so-called lovers were all dead, and even some of his friends' souls had returned to heaven and earth. In this chaotic world, only Fatso Huang, Gu Beichen, and Lu Bai could make him trust. Even if it was Luo Ho and Yuan Ling, Yi Xian did not trust them that much. Sir, I will definitely cultivate well and live up to your expectations, Fatso Huang said seriously, which was rare for him. Well, you can go now. Comprehend the heaven burial method well. I also want to continue to comprehend the Tao comprehending realm. I hope I can step into this realm before the Alliance Grand Ceremony, Yi Xian said in a deep voice. Yes, sir. Fatso Huang bowed and left, no longer disturbing Yi Xian's cultivation. It was also on this day that the entire snow bamboo peak was sealed by a large array and completely fell into silence. Time was like water, and the years passed by quickly. 7 years later. Clang, clang, clang. A total of 108 bell tolls reverberated in the Mount Han for hundreds of millions of miles. Dharma carriages flew past from all directions, and many people with terrifying auras were rushing towards the Grand Yin heavenly sect. Today was the day of the Alliance Grand Ceremony of the Northern Region. All the major sects and orthodoxies gathered together, which was a grand event in the Beichen starfield. Of course, the so-called Alliance Grand Ceremony was just a gimmick. The real core was the distribution of benefits among the major sects and orthodoxies. As mentioned before, the Beichen starfield was bitterly cold, and cultivation resources were very scarce. For a little bit of cultivation resources, sects and families would be slaughtered. Chapter 1399. The Northern Region Alliance was a force formed by the 6 major sects. Although this force could resist the major sects of the Northern Region, it was also filled with internal conflicts of interest, and these conflicts of interest would cause the 6 major sects to fall apart. That was why the Alliance Grand Banquet was held. The 6 major sects would also distribute the interests of their respective sects during the Alliance Grand Banquet. This year's Alliance Grand Banquet would be held in the Taiyin Heavenly Sect at the peak of the Taiyin Mountain. The 6 major sects would all be present, and there would be a so-called sparring session. Of course, the so-called sparring session was to show the strength of the major sects so that they could have an advantage in the distribution of interests. To put it bluntly, the 6 major sects would flex their muscles so that they could have an advantage in the distribution of interests. Sect Leader Yi, Sect Leader Yi. Outside the mountain gate of Snow Bamboo Peak, a disciple of the Taiyin Heavenly Sect kept calling the door. He had come under the orders of the sect leader to invite Yi Xian to the Alliance Grand Banquet. However, he had already called for half an hour, but he did not receive any response. Rumble. Suddenly, the mountain ceiling formation slowly dissipated, and Fatso Huang walked out with a frown. Greetings, Deacon Huang. I'm here under the orders of the sect leader to invite the vice sect leader to the Alliance Grand Banquet. The person hurriedly bowed to Fatso Huang. Got it. The vice sect leader will definitely be there when the Alliance Grand Banquet begins, Fatso Huang said impatiently. The person did not dare to say anything more, and immediately flew away to report the news. Humph, you're courting death. Fatso Huang already knew the Taiyin Heavenly Sect leader's plan. The corner of his mouth curled into a sinister sneer, and he turned into a beam of light and flew toward the peak of the mountain. At the peak of Mount Han, Yi Xian was like an ancient stone, and his entire body was covered in ice and snow. He sat cross-legged on the peak of the mountain, and his entire body seemed to have turned into a fossil. Not even a trace of vitality leaked from his body. "Sir, the Alliance Grand Banquet is about to begin. We should move." Fatso Huang quietly appeared behind Yi Xian. He bowed to Yi Xian, but there was a hint of worry in his eyes. This was because he didn't know if Yi Xian had stepped into the Tao comprehending realm during these 10 years. After all, he was worried about Yi Xian as he had to face the murderous intent of the sempiternal realm. Crack. The ice cracked and the snow melted. Yi Xian's cross-legged body moved slightly, and his eyes slowly opened. A gray light flashed in his eyes, and the sea of clouds in front of him twisted and disappeared, forming a terrifying black hole vortex. Whoosh! Yi Xian spat out a stream of turbid air from his mouth, instantly tearing apart the void in front of him. Its power was simply unbearable to look at. Fatso Huang's face lit up as he excitedly asked Yi Xian, "Sir, have you entered the enlightenment stage?" "One step. Just one more step." Yi Xian slowly stood up, his gaze unfathomable. In these 10 years of comprehending his own body, he'd already gained a great deal of insight. However, if he wanted to step into the Tao comprehension realm, he still needed to take this final step. This last step required an opportunity. Yi Xian had a faint premonition that this opportunity was the so-called sempiternal realm. He could only step into the Tao comprehending realm when the other party gave him the pressure of life and death. "Let's go. Let me see who will be attending the Northern Region Alliance Grand Banquet." Yi Xian strolled in the sky, a strange smile on his face. This also made Fatso Huang excited. He knew that Yi Xian must have been mentally prepared to show such an expression. The heavenly Yi mountain was shining brightly. The cold snow was drifting and the north wind was whistling. The entire venue was solemn. There were 9 high platforms in the void in all directions. The disciples of various sects were sitting on them with their legs crossed. 4 figures with a terrifying aura formed the dome. They were the lords of the 4 sections. In the central area of the venue, the master of the lunar sect sat on a cloud with his legs crossed. Beside him were the 4 supreme elders. However, there was an empty cloud beside him. Obviously, it was left for Yi Xian, the deputy lord. Why is the deputy lord not here yet? The grand banquet of the Alliance Grand Banquet was about to begin. However, Yi Xian had not shown up yet. This made the master of the lunar sect gloomy. After all, he was going to use the lord of the sect of the ether to get rid of Yi Xian today. "I have already informed Deacon Huang. The deputy lord should be here soon." The messenger disciple hurriedly reported from below. As soon as this disciple finished speaking, Yi Xian quietly walked over from the horizon. However, he did not reveal any aura of an expert. He was extremely low-key and did not attract much attention. After all, there were many experts at the Grand Banquet of the Alliance Grand Banquet at this moment. Naturally, no one would pay attention to Yi Xian. "Yi Daoyu, you are finally here." With the arrival of Yi Xian, the master of the lunar sect was excited and quickly got up to greet him. However, the master of the lunar sect's attitude immediately surprised the people of the various sections. They all looked at Yi Xian and sized him up. It was no wonder that the people of the various sects were surprised. After all, the master of the lunar sect was extremely domineering. Even the supreme elders in the sect had to bow to him. It could be said that the entire lunar sect was under his command. At this moment, the master of the lunar sect was lowering his status to greet someone. This naturally made the people of the various sects curious, especially the masters of the 4 major sects who were sitting cross-legged on the dome. It seems that this person is the deputy lord of the lunar sect. The master of the Flying Saint sect was dressed in white. His cultivation level was also at the Tao reunion level. At this moment, he was sizing up Yi Xian. This person's cultivation level is only at the path-seeking realm. Even if the lunar old geezer invited him into the sect and treated him as an important guest, there is no need to give him the position of deputy lord. The master of the Nine Tunes sect was a woman. She was dressed in black and was also at the Tao reunion level. At this moment, she was sizing up Yi Xian with her beautiful eyes. Who knows what the lunar old geezer is up to? Although the path-seeking realm is an overlord in the Beichen starfield, the position of deputy lord of the lunar sect is not for this person. The solar sect master sneered. Solar old geezer, today is the grand banquet of our alliance. You and the lunar old geezer should put aside your grudges. If there is another dispute, the outside world will see the Northern Region alliance as a joke. The master of the corpse puppet sect said in a cold voice. Humph, the lunar sect and the solar sect are natural opposites. However, you can rest assured that I will not lower myself to his level today. The solar sect master said coldly. Alright, now only the sect leader of the ether sect is not here yet. Let's put aside our grudges and wait for the sect leader of the ether sect to come and preside over this grand banquet. The master of the Nine Tunes sect frowned. The 4 sect masters present also had various grudges. Usually, there would be friction between the sections. However, today was the grand banquet of the alliance. Naturally, they had to put aside their grudges. However, when the 4 sect masters were chatting, they all looked at Yi Xian. After all, the fact that the lunar sect master had come to greet him personally proved that Yi Xian should not be a simple path-seeking realm cultivator. On the other side, Yi Xian naturally noticed the 4 Dao reunion realm sect masters. However, he smiled and did not pay much attention to them. Under the lunar sect master's greeting, the 2 of them sat side by side on the futon. Yi Dao Yu, today is the grand banquet of the alliance. The 6 sects will divide the resources that they have obtained. There will also be sparring sessions. At that time, we will have to trouble you to fight for our sect. The lunar sect master said with a smile. Yi Xian sneered in his heart at the lunar sect master's hypocritical face. However, on the surface, he still said calmly, since I have joined the lunar sect and am the deputy sect master, I will naturally fight for the interests of our sect. Please rest assured, sect master. Good, good, good. With deputy sect master Ye's help, our sect will definitely shine in this grand banquet. The lunar sect master clapped her hands and smiled. Chapter 1400. Yi Xian had a smile on his face as he chatted with the lunar sect's master. From the beginning to the end, he remained calm and composed. Ha ha ha, everyone is early. I am the one who is late. Suddenly, a maniacal laughter came from the sky. A man in a green robe appeared in the middle of the venue. As he appeared, the 5 sect masters stood up to greet him. The disciples of the various sects also bowed to him. Loud cheers could be heard. Greetings to the leader of the Ether Alliance. Greetings to the leader of the Ether Alliance. Everyone from the 6 sects bowed. Even the sect masters cupped their fists. However, Yi Xian remained seated calmly and had no intention of standing up to greet him. Li Tsangtian, the sect master of the Ether Alliance, was the leader of the North Region Alliance. He had entered the Immortal realm for 1,000,000 years and was considered one of the top figures in the entire Beichen starfield. At this moment, he looked around. When he realized that Yi Xian was still seated calmly and had no intention of standing up to greet him, he was stunned. Then, he turned to look at Yi Xian. As their gazes met, the void trembled and sparks burst forth. Just this moment of eye contact caused the entire venue to become strangely quiet. Who is so rude? I heard that he is the vice sect master of the Sun Moon sect. He seems to be a very capable person. What a joke. He is a big figure to us. However, the leader of the Ether Alliance is in the Immortal realm and is the leader of the North Region Alliance. This person is so rude. Whispers could be heard continuously. Although the disciples of the six sects were whispering softly, there were too many people. Instantly, the entire venue became noisy. Immortal realm? Yi Xian muttered in his heart as he sized up Li Cangtian. At the same time, Li Cangtian was also sizing up Yi Xian. However, a mischievous look flashed across Li Cangtian's eyes. Obviously, Li Cangtian was certain that this was the person that the Sun Moon sect master wanted him to get rid of. The sempiternal realm was indeed terrifying. Although he had just entered the sempiternal realm, he was able to give me immense pressure. Yi Xian squinted his eyes as he muttered in his heart. Even though he was extremely strong, Yi Xian was only at the Dao querying realm after all. Facing someone who was an entire cultivation realm higher than him, he could truly feel the difference between him and Li Cangtian. The immortal realm was indeed worthy of its name. Those who could be called the sect leader were indeed extraordinary. In the entire chaotic world, the immortal realm could be regarded as the top figures. After all, sempiternal realm cultivators were already qualified to seek out the seats of the strongest throughout history. They were also supreme characters who could establish their own great sections. Of course, Li Cangtian was only in the early stage of the immortal realm and was still far from being comparable to the veteran immortal realm experts like sect leader Butian. However, his immortal realm cultivation was real and it gave Yi Xian immense pressure. However, it was only pressure, and it wouldn't affect Yi Xian in the slightest. After all, he'd fought with the strongest back then, and he could even withstand the pressure from the strongest, let alone a mere Li Cangtian. Moreover, Yi Xian's blood was boiling in anticipation of the upcoming battle. This was because he felt that he had found a strong opponent and this Li Cangtian should be the opportunity for him to enter the Dao comprehending realm. Back then, when he fought with the strongest and even killed the Lord of the Extreme Devil, that wasn't Yi Xian's true cultivation. After all, in that situation, he had executed the future incarnation and a few other forbidden arts. He could only achieve that when the time was right. However, it was different now. The current Yi Xian was his true cultivation. He really wanted to try it out. Even though he was an entire cultivation realm lower than Li Cangtian, he wanted to see if he could fight with someone who was an entire cultivation realm higher than him. You must be the vice sect leader Yi Tian, right? Li Cangtian smiled as the two of them looked at each other. That's right. Yi Xian replied indifferently. Good, good, good. Let's not talk about your cultivation realm. Just your magnanimity is enough to convince me. When we spar, I would like to ask you for advice. Li Cangtian smiled as he spoke. However, his words carried a high and mighty attitude. As soon as he finished speaking, the people from the six sects all had different expressions as they looked at Yi Xian with gazes of pity. Obviously, in the eyes of everyone, since Yi Xian was targeted by Li Cangtian, the immortal stage expert, he would probably end up in an extremely miserable state today. Even if he could survive, he would probably be heavily injured and lose all face. At this moment, the lunar sect master's lips curled into a cold smile and a murderous intent flashed across her eyes. The lunar sect master was still thinking about how to let Yi Xian and Li Cangtian fight. Now that everything was going according to her plan, she could finally get rid of Yi Xian, this hidden danger. I'm also interested in sparring with you. I just hope that you won't disappoint me. Yi Xian said indifferently. Hiss. Following Yi Xian's words, not only was Li Cangtian stunned, everyone from the six sects sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Yi Xian strangely. Obviously, even though Yi Xian was a Dao querying realm cultivator and was indeed a great cultivator in the entire North Star domain, he was insignificant in front of an immortal realm cultivator. How dare he say such arrogant words? Wasn't he courting death? Interesting, interesting. Li Cangtian nodded approvingly and a murderous intent flashed across his eyes. Obviously, he had already sentenced Yi Xian to death. Originally, according to Li Cangtian's thoughts, the deal between him and the lunar sect's master was just a piece of cake. He could casually kill Yi Xian. But now, Li Tsangtian really wanted to kill Yi Xian because Yi Xian didn't respect him at all. This was also a challenge to his authority as the North Region Alliance leader. Let the grand meeting begin. Li Tsangtian didn't look at Yi Xian as he took a step forward and sat cross-legged on the central dome. 1,000-mile scroll was casually thrown out by him and a series of void vision appeared. These void vision included mountains and lakes, and there were many red dots on them. Obviously, the red dots were places with spirit veins, which were also the resources that the 6 sects were going to distribute. Fellow Taoists, I don't want to say too much. My sect of the Ether will take 40% of the spirit veins, and the remaining 60% will be divided among the 5 sections. Following Li Tsangtian's words, the faces of the 5 sect masters changed. They didn't expect Li Tsangtian to be so greedy. In the previous division of the spirit veins, the sect of the Ether had increased from 20% to 30%. They didn't expect Li Tsangtian to increase it to 40% for this year's grand meeting. Fellow Taoist Tsangtian, the 6 sects advance and retreat together. Although you are in the Immortal Realm and the leader of the North Region Alliance and have made great contributions to the 6 sects, don't you think 40% of the spirit veins is too much? Sect Master Jiao Chu frowned and expressed his dissatisfaction. That's right. If the sect of the Ether takes 40% of the spirit veins, how are we going to divide the remaining 60%? Sect Master Fei Xing's voice was cold. Fellow Taoist Tsangtian, isn't your appetite a little too big? Solar Sect Master had the worst temper. However, Li Tsangtian was in the Immortal Realm after all. He could only suppress his anger and asked. Chapter 1401. Li Tsangtian was not surprised when he saw the dissatisfaction on the faces of the sect masters. Apparently, he had expected this result. My friends, you only see that the sect of the Ether wants 40% of the spiritual veins. But have you seen the benefits that I've fought for the 6 sects? Li Tsangtian's face turned cold as he continued, the 3 major sects of the North region have been oppressing our sects all year round. If I didn't lead the sect of the Ether to take the lead, how could we obtain so many spiritual veins? The sect of the Ether has suffered heavy casualties. Don't we need to recover our strength? Isn't it unfair for your sects to hide behind and enjoy the fruits of our hard work? Li Tsangtian said sternly. Fellow Taoist Tsang Tian, that's not right. Back then, when we were fighting against the Dark North sect, our 5 sects also contributed a lot. Who knows how many of our disciples died? How could we just sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor? Sect Master Corpse Puppet said gloomily. Logically speaking, the 5 sect masters did not want to offend Li Tsangtian. After all, he was the only Immortal Realm cultivator in the North Region Alliance. But the spiritual veins were too important. It was related to the development of their sections. Therefore, the sect masters could only fight for it. I don't want to talk nonsense. The sect of the Ether must take 40% of the spiritual veins. As for the remaining 60%, it's up to you. If you don't agree with my decision, the sect of the Ether will withdraw from the North Region Alliance and give up the position of the leader of the alliance. Li Tsangtian was completely fearless. After all, he was the only Immortal Realm cultivator in the North Region Alliance. If he led the sect of the Ether out of the North Region Alliance, how could the 5 sects resist the 3 major sects of the North Region? You. Sect Master Jiao Chu's face turned cold. Anger burned in her heart. But she could only suppress it and let out a long sigh. My friends, since Brother Tsangtian wants 40% of the spiritual veins, we'll take 40%. We'll share the remaining 60% equally. What do you think? Sect Master Lunar persuaded. Lunar Old Ghost, it's easy for you to say. But how can we share the remaining 60% equally? Are you going to give up your lunar sect's share? Sect Master Corpse Kuei sneered. That's right. If you, Taiyin old man, are willing to give up your sect's share, we will agree to Dao friend Sang Tian's request for 40% of the spirit vein. The Ascension sect master also sneered. It was obvious that the Sun Moon sect master was speaking up for Li Tsangtian, and this made the other sect masters unhappy. It was obvious that the Sun Moon sect master was already on the same boat as Li Tsangtian. Fellow Taoists, please don't be anxious. Our Lunar Sky sect still has some foundation. This time, our Lunar Sky sect can forego the division of the spirit vein. I just hope that fellow Taoists won't fight among themselves, the Lunar Sky sect master said with a kind look on his face. The faces of the 4 sect masters changed slightly. They had just casually mentioned it and didn't expect that the Sun Moon sect master would really give up her share. This caused the 4 sect masters to be shocked as their gazes towards the Sun Moon sect master and Li Tsangtian turned solemn. Previously, it was mentioned that the 6 sects had many conflicts and the North Region Alliance was formed to go against the large sects of the North Region. From the looks of it, the relationship between the Moon sect master and Li Tsangtian was not simple and there was probably something fishy going on. Sect master, you can't. If you give up our sect spirit vein, how are our disciples going to cultivate? An elder of the Lunar Sky sect hurriedly kowtowed. It was obvious that the Sun Moon sect master's decision had already affected the disciples of the sect. Not only this elder, but many of the disciples of the Lunar Sky sect were also green in the face. If they gave up the spirit vein, how were they going to cultivate? In this cruel North Star region, as long as one's cultivation fell behind by a bit, there was a possibility of dying in the hands of their enemies. How could the disciples of the Lunar Sky sect not be anxious? Step back. How can you go against the decision of our sect master? The Sun Moon sect master's face turned cold as she waved her hand to send the elder flying, displaying the prestige of a sect master. Fellow Grand Taoist is still the most reasonable one. Li Tsangtian smiled. Alright, since the old ghost of Lunar Sky sect is willing to give up the division of the spirit vein, then our 4 sects will share the remaining 60%. The Sun Moon sect master said in a deep voice. Obviously, no matter what the Sun Moon sect master and Li Tsangtian were up to, the remaining 60% was still acceptable to the 4 sections. Wait. Suddenly, just as the 6 sect masters were done with the division, Yi Xian stood up quietly and took a step forward to stand in front of the 6 sect masters. Fellow Grand Taoist, although you are the sect master, you don't have the right to take away the cultivation resources of your disciples, right? As the vice sect master, I don't agree to give up the spirit vein of the Lunar Sky sect. Yi Xian said indifferently. The Sun Moon sect master's face changed as she looked at Yi Xian coldly. She did not know who Yi Xian was and why he wanted to join the Lunar Sky sect. But now that Yi Xian had jumped out to oppose her, she felt that something was wrong. Indeed, the Sun Moon sect master looked to the side and saw the disciples and elders clenching their fists as their faces turned red. They looked at Yi Xian with gratitude. Oh no! The Sun Moon sect master cursed in her heart. She was only thinking about the deal with Li Tsangtian and wanted to kill Yi Xian first. Then, she would be able to take back the spirit vein once she entered the immortal realm. However, the disciples of the sect didn't know what he was thinking. At this moment, he was basically giving away the entire sect's cultivation resources. This had already caused the disciples of the sect to question him. As the sect master, the Sun Moon sect master knew the importance of the people's hearts. The entire sect was not formed around her but the development of the entire sect. Sacrificing the interests of the sect was a huge taboo and it made the disciples and elders of the sect unhappy. If this matter happened in the orthodoxy of the Great Central Territory, it would be fine. After all, the Great Central Territory was vast and cultivation resources were everywhere. But it was different in the North Star Territory. The North Star Territory was bitterly cold and the people there were fierce. They could kill thousands of people for a limited amount of cultivation resources. Now that she was going to take away the cultivation resources of her disciples, the hidden danger was extremely terrifying. Even though the Sun Moon sect master understood the logic behind it, she was already riding a tiger and it was too late to regret. Right now, the only way was to brace himself and continue walking. He had to first suppress Yi Xian, this thorn, and appease the people in the sect after the alliance gathering. Yi Dao Yu, you have just joined my sect and are not familiar with the matters in the sect. I will tell you the reason in the future. The Sun Moon sect master forced a smile. Looking at the Sun Moon sect master's awkward and cold expression, Yi Xian's lips curled into a strange smile and a murderous intent flashed across his eyes. What a joke. Ridiculous. You are the sect master but you betrayed the interests of the sect and ignored your disciples. What else do you need to explain? Yi Xian said righteously. Vice sect master Yi is right. If we lose these spirit veins, our cultivation will stagnate. Sect master, why do you ignore us disciples? Someone in the crowd said angrily. This was like a chain reaction that ignited the anger of the disciples and elders of the Sun Moon sect. Chapter 1402. That's right. Sect master, you're in the Tao integration stage and have a bright future. However, we're just insignificant cultivators. If we lose our cultivation resources, how can we survive? Sect master, please retract your order. Sect master, please reconsider. In the next moment, the disciples of the Lunar Sky sect all shouted. Clearly, they were extremely dissatisfied with the Lunar Sky sect master's decision. This was related to their lives. How dare you? Are you trying to rebel? The master of the lunar sect flew into a rage and loudly scolded the disciples of the sect. He had never thought that he would end up like this because of a small mistake he had made. A sect master has to consider the entire sect. If we allow you to do as you please, I'm afraid the Lunar Sky sect will be doomed eternally. Yi Xian shouted coldly and completely transformed into a benevolent and righteous person. Yi Tian, what do you mean? The Lunar Sky sect master suddenly looked at Yi Xian because the instigator of all this was Yi Xian. It was also because of Yi Xian's revolt that this situation happened. What do I mean? Yi Xian smiled strangely and then shouted with a cold expression, you don't deserve to be the Lunar Sky sect master. You don't deserve to lead the Lunar Sky sect. You. The Lunar Sky sect master's face was livid. He finally knew Yi Xian's goal. He wanted to take his position as sect master and finally exposed his ambition at this moment. Fine, fine, fine. Since you say that I don't deserve to be the sect master, then do you deserve to be the sect master? The Lunar Sky sect master was so angry that he laughed. I don't know if Deputy Sect Master Yi deserves to be the sect master or not, but you definitely don't deserve to be the sect master. If you give up the division of the spirit vein today, we disciples will definitely not agree. Fatso Huang stood up directly and a large number of Lunar Sky sect deacons followed behind him. Obviously, these people had been recruited by Fatso Huang long ago to force the Lunar Sky sect master to abdicate at this moment. You traitors, I'll destroy your bodies and souls. Rumble. The Lunar Sky sect master was extremely furious. His 5 fingers suddenly stretched out toward Fatso Huang and the others. His terrifying Tao integration realm cultivation erupted. Obviously, he wanted to kill all of them. Bang! Suddenly, Yi Xian took a step forward and stretched out his 5 fingers also stretched, instantly dispelling the Lunar Sky sect master's attack. Why, are you angry out of humiliation? Yi Xian smiled sinisterly. He stood with his hands behind his back as he looked at the lunar sect master. A cruel light flashed through his eyes. Yi Tian, do you really think I don't dare to kill you? At this moment, the lunar sect master's eyes were bloodshot and his face was ashen. He was so angry at Yi Xian that his chest was about to explode. The killing intent in his heart had already reached its peak. Use right Xian Xian Yi Xian Xian's master, Yi Yi Xian Xian. No matter how scheming the lunar sect's master was, he couldn't withstand Yi Xian's schemes. Right now, it wasn't a question of whether Yi Xian would die or not, but a question of his dignity as the sect master. Fellow Sun sect master, it seems like you won't be able to keep your position as sect master. The Solar Sky sect master sneered. The Solar Sky sect and the Lunar Sky sect were hostile to each other. The Solar Sky sect master was happy to see the Lunar Sky sect fight among themselves. The other sect masters also had different expressions, which made the Lunar Sky sect master's face extremely gloomy. Sect master, please step down and let Deputy Sect Master Yi Xian take over our Lunar Sky sect. Fatso Huang Xian was indeed an expert in bewitching people. He immediately stirred up the emotions of the people around him. The disciples of the Lunar Sky sect immediately echoed his words. However, the elders of the Lunar Sky sect did not go along. After all, they were the backbone of the sect. Moreover, the Lunar Sky sect master had accumulated power for many years. If he really asked them to rebel, these elders would not dare. However, the support of these Lunar Sky sect disciples was enough. This gave Yi Xian the general trend of people's hearts, which was exactly what Yi Xian wanted. Good, good, good. The Lunar Sky sect master repeated the word good 3 times. At this moment, he knew that he had no way out. The only way now was to kill Yi Xian. Only then could he suppress this rebellion. Yi Tian, don't you want the position of sect master? I'm afraid you don't have the ability to be the Lunar Sky sect master. Boom! Ice and snow whistled for 30,000 miles. The cold wind of heaven and earth tore through the sky. The Lunar Sky sect master's robes fluttered. His Tao Integration Realm cultivation base was released to the extreme. The entire lunar mountain was rumbling as if it would collapse at any moment. Mountain pulling. Rumble. The Lunar Sky sect master stood tall. The lunar divine light illuminated the mountains and rivers for thousands of miles. His body expanded at a terrifying speed. He directly turned into a giant. When he reached out with one hand, dozens of icy mountains were sucked toward him. Die. At this moment, the Lunar Sky sect master no longer held back. His 100,000-meter-tall body traversed heaven and earth. The dozens of icy mountains that were sucked toward him crazily smashed toward Yi Xian. The Tao Integration Realm allowed one to move freely. This was the terrifying aspect of the Tao Integration Realm. It was also the reason why the Lunar Sky sect master was determined to kill Yi Xian. Child's play. Yi Xian smiled coldly. His aura shook, and his entire body expanded at a terrifying speed. He also turned into a 100,000-meter-tall giant. When he swung his fists, heaven and earth trembled. The 2 fist auras seemed to be able to shatter the sky. They carried a mighty force that could destroy all things as they charged toward the Lunar Sky sect master. Bam, bam, bam. Terrifying, too terrifying. Yi Xian's fist auras were like large rotating stars. They were unstoppable and unbreakable. The dozens of icy mountains were all shattered by his fist auras. The entire heaven and earth trembled violently. Go to hell. The Lunar Sky sect master roared furiously. One after another, great techniques gathered in his hands. The mountains within hundreds of millions of miles trembled. The lunar divine light that lit up heaven and earth howled and wreaked havoc in the sky. It shot toward Yi Xian in a frenzy. You really are a piece of trash. Yi Xian smiled coldly. Perhaps the Lunar Sky sect master's great techniques were extremely domineering in the eyes of others. However, in his eyes, they were practically extremely clumsy. After all, the techniques that Yi Xian cultivated were all supreme existences. His knowledge of great techniques and secret techniques was not something that the Lunar Sky sect master could compare to. This was because Yi Xian's starting point was too high. These seemingly fierce great techniques were simply unbearable to him. Boom! Bury the heavens and destroy the earth. Destroy the mountains and rivers. Yi Xian took a step forward. His entire body was like the heavens and the universe. He exploded with an aura that could suppress everything. The lunar divine light that shot toward him was shattered by him. His entire body closed in on the lunar sky sect master. The heaven-burying light around him made him invulnerable. His battle prowess could not be judged by the standards of a Tao-querying realm cultivator. Bang! Yi Xian punched out and directly shattered the lunar divine light. That terrifying fist aura could pierce through the heavens and earth. This also caused the lunar sky sect master to block it in a panic. His entire body was retreating rapidly. Rumble. The lunar sky sect master's 100,000 feet tall body continuously shattered the icy mountains. Meanwhile, Yi Xian charged toward him in a frenzy. Clearly, in this exchange, the lunar sky sect master was at a disadvantage. Yi Xian had the absolute advantage. Chapter 1403. How is this possible? Sect Master Jiu Chu looked on in shock. The other sect masters were also stunned and could not believe their eyes. A Tao integration realm cultivator was actually being suppressed by a Tao querying realm cultivator. This had completely overturned their understanding of the world. Even though the Tao querying three realms was a huge realm and was divided into three levels, the difference between each level was like heaven and earth, but there was definitely a huge gap. Perhaps there were ultimate seeds in the Grand Central Territory who could cross realms and fight. This was not rare in the chaotic world. However, the sect masters did not expect such a person to appear in the North Star domain. That was because the North Star domain was different from the Grand Central Territory. This place was bitterly cold and lacked cultivation resources. There were also no ultimate orthodoxies stationed here. Therefore, there were very few monsters who could cross realms and fight. The sect masters frowned as they watched and their eyes gradually turned serious. Even Li Tsangtian, who had always looked down on Yi Xian, frowned as he looked at Yi Xian in shock. This person's identity is definitely not simple. Suddenly, Li Tsangtian whispered and the other sect masters nodded slowly. That was because they had lived for far too long and had already been cultivating in the North Star domain since the 10th Eon was established. They had never heard of Yi Xian in the North Star domain. They even recognized some of the great cultivators in the three major sects of the North Star domain. However, Yi Xian was definitely not one of them. This also indirectly proved that Yi Xian was not from the North Star domain. It was very likely that Yi Xian came from the Grand Central Territory. After all, such a terrifying expert could only appear in the Grand Central Territory. This was also an indisputable fact in the 5 regions of chaos. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook and rumbled continuously. Although Yi Xian's combat strength was terrifying, the lunar sect master was a Tao integration realm cultivator after all. She was not completely defenseless against Yi Xian's terrifying attacks. This also caused the two of them to fight crazily. Mountains and rivers were destroyed, and the dome trembled. Both of them used the Transcendence World technique, and each of their attacks carried an extremely terrifying might. It was too much for the spectators to take in. Qi. A stream of heavenly river descended from the chaotic starry sky and was directly sucked over by Yi Xian. Then, he casually threw it towards the lunar patriarch. The lunar patriarch also threw out a great art and crazily clashed with Yi Xian. Bang! Yi Xian's battle prowess was simply too terrifying. With the support of the Tribulation Transcender transformation, his battle prowess wasn't inferior to the lunar sect masters at all. Moreover, he faintly suppressed the lunar sect master. What was even more terrifying was that Yi Xian's every great technique caused the lunar sect master to retreat step by step. This was still Yi Xian intentionally concealing his identity and not using his most powerful technique. After all, something as obvious as a space-time technique would be recognized by these people at a glance. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult for the lunar sect master to resist. Boom! The two of them fought from the sky to the ground, and then from the ground to the sky. Everywhere they went, mountains and rivers turned into ashes. Even the boundless cold mountains turned into ashes. When the two of them reached the climax of their battle, they actually broke through the Bachan star field and directly entered the vast chaotic starry sky. They were like two meteors intertwining with each other, erupting with dazzling light. Time passed, and the sun and moon alternated. Except for a few sect masters who could faintly see the two of them fighting in the chaotic starry sky, the people of the other 6 sects could only wait anxiously. A good alliance meeting had unexpectedly turned into an internal strife of the lunar sect. Obviously, only one of the two of them could survive, and the one who survived would be the lunar sect master. However, no one noticed that a cold young man in a golden battle robe was chatting with Fatso Huang. If Yi Xian was present, he would definitely see that this young man in a golden battle robe was Gu Baichen. After so many years, Gu Baichen's cultivation had already reached the 9th heaven Saint King realm. He was also the #1 spirit son of the solar sect. It could be said that apart from the solar sect master and some elders, he could be considered an outstanding talent among the younger generation. Fatso Huang, do you think Sir can kill the lunar old devil? Gu Baichen secretly transmitted his voice. Obviously, he missed Yi Xian very much. Brat, although you and I have left Sir for many years, you still don't know what kind of person he is. Even if the lunar old devil is in the path integration realm, I think that since Sir dared to attack, it means that the lunar old devil won't survive. Fatso Huang was extremely certain. But Baichen, although you are a 9th heaven Saint King now, I have just received the buried sky technique from Sir. It won't take long for me to catch up to you. When the time comes, how about we spar? Fatso Huang looked relaxed. He was not worried about Yi Xian's safety. Instead, he teased Fatso Huang. After all, Gu Baichen always mocked him for his weak cultivation whenever they met. This was a rare opportunity to anger him, so Fatso Huang naturally would not let it go. Don't be too smug. After I see Sir's supreme technique, you will still be left behind by me. Gu Baichen retorted sarcastically. Another 7 days and 7 nights passed. The battle in the chaotic starry sky gradually came to an end. Even the power that erupted began to weaken. However, it was also on this day that a terrifying black fog covered the vision of the 5 sect masters. There was also a shrill cry. What's the outcome? The solar sect master looked at Li Tsangtian in confusion. Because his Dharma eye could not see the situation in the chaotic starry sky, and because the terrifying black fog was too mysterious, it was impossible to know who won the battle. However, Li Tsangtian, who was in the immortal realm, might be able to know the outcome of the battle. This. Li Tsangtian frowned. Because his Dharma eye was also blocked, he could only vaguely see 2 figures entangled in the black fog. He did not know who won and who lost. Moreover, for some reason, when Li Tsangtian saw the black fog, he suddenly felt a sense of fear in his heart. It was as though the black fog was nurturing something terrifying. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, just as everyone was guessing the outcome, they saw a figure walking down from the starry sky. With every step he took, heaven and earth rumbled. It's him. Li Tsangtian muttered in shock because the person who returned from the chaotic starry sky was Yi Xian. What shocked Li Tsangtian the most was that Yi Xian's aura was actually twice as terrifying as before. Strange. Extremely strange. Li Tsangtian was not surprised that Yi Xian could return victorious. After all, he had already suspected that Yi Xian came from the central region. What truly shocked him was that after such a terrifying battle, Yi Xian's aura did not decrease but increased instead. This was what shocked him the most. Old man Taiyin. How is this possible? Suddenly, the solar sect master roared in shock. His pupils constricted and the other sect masters looked at Yi Xian again. They saw Yi Xian walking towards them with a bloody head in his hand. This head belonged to none other than the lunar sect master who had just fought a crazy battle with Yi Xian. Chapter 1404. A bloody head rolled in the center of the venue until it fell at the feet of the 5 sect masters. The lunar sect master's eyes were wide open, unable to close for a long time. At this moment, it was very quiet. Not only was it quiet, but it was an indescribable silence. The disciples of the 6 sects were dead silent, and the faces of the 5 sect masters were heavy. The entire venue could be said to be so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. No one dared to make the slightest sound. Yi Xian slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and the power around his body gradually dissipated. Only the occasional flash of light in his eyes proved that he was in an excellent state at this moment. No one knew how the lunar sect master died, and only Yi Xian knew how he killed the lunar sect master. After fighting for a long time in the chaotic starry sky, Yi Xian finally used his most powerful technique. This was the product of the combination of the Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art. It could be called the complete heaven-devouring demonic art. Although the heaven-devouring demonic art that the heaven-devouring demon lord passed to Yi Xian had a lot of flaws, Yi Xian didn't need to cultivate the other party's technique at all. He only needed to comprehend its profound meaning and integrate it with the Calamity Transcender technique into the heaven burial art. This had already become one of his trump cards. Under the combination of the Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art, the lunar sect master suffered a great calamity even though she was at the Tao integration realm. Her entire cultivation base was swallowed by Yi Xian, and Yi Xian even cut off her head. Vice sect master Yi, you killed her well. This person is not worthy of being the lunar sect master at all. Suddenly, Fatso Huang roared, and as if there was a chain reaction, a large number of lunar sect disciples echoed. Perhaps it was because the situation was hopeless, or perhaps it was because the monkeys scattered when the tree fell, but the 4 grand elders looked at each other and seemed to see the fear in each other's eyes. They bowed to Yi Xian one after another, and words of praise came from their mouths. Vice Sect Master Yi, please ascend to the position of Sect Master. Under the leadership of Sect Master Yi, our lunar heavenly sect will definitely prosper. The 4 grand elders called out loudly, showing their allegiance to Yi Xian. As the 4 grand elders expressed their stance, the people of the lunar sect all echoed in agreement. At that moment, the Sun-Moon sect master was dead. Since Yi Xian was able to kill the Sun-Moon sect master, it proved that Yi Xian was stronger than the Sun-Moon sect master. The position of sect master belonged to him. The North Star domain was just that cruel. It was a bloody description of this cruel world. This was the so-called survival of the fittest. Only the strong who survived would be looked up to by others, and a dead person would not be able to cause any waves, much less have the so-called loyalty to avenge the lunar sect master from Yi Xian. Since everyone has elected me as the new sect master, then this Yi will not decline this responsibility. Yi Xian smiled faintly. He would not decline with so-called modesty. After all, he had chosen to be the master of the lunar heavenly sect. Naturally, he would control the entire lunar heavenly sect. No, not only control the lunar heavenly sect. A small lunar heavenly sect was not in Yi Xian's eyes. Yi Xian's ambition was not limited to this. He wanted to control the entire North Region Alliance, and more importantly, he wanted to become the so-called king of the North Region. In Yi Xian's eyes, the so-called orthodoxy was not worth mentioning at all. Only by becoming stronger was the right path. However, on the path of cultivation, being able to control a region was beneficial to his own cultivation. Clap, clap, clap. Li Tsangtian clapped his hands and laughed heartily. He walked slowly towards Yi Xian and said, "Wonderful, truly wonderful. My fellow Taoist friend's scheming has really impressed me." Unfortunately, Yi Xian did not react to Li Cangtian's sarcastic words. Instead, he sat on the futon in a dignified manner, as if Li Cangtian was invisible. "Since I am the lunar sect master, then I have the right to speak about the division of the spirit vein. The sect of ether wants to take 40% of it, but we, the lunar heavenly sect, naturally will not agree." Yi Xian said indifferently. "Oh." Li Cangtian laughed. However, his laughter was very cold. He looked at Yi Xian with narrowed eyes and said, "Then according to my fellow Taoist friend's opinion, how much should the sect of ether take, and how much should the lunar heavenly sect take?" "Not much. The lunar heavenly sect will take 30% of the spirit vein, and the remaining 70% will be divided among the 5 sections." Yi Xian's words were simply earth-shattering. Instantly, the entire place became silent. Arrogant. Audacious. Ignorant. All kinds of words appeared in the minds of the 6 sections. Everyone looked at Yi Xian as if they were looking at a lunatic. The disciples of the other 5 sects were fine, but the disciples of the lunar heavenly sect had complicated expressions. Although they were very surprised by Yi Xian's exorbitant demand. Everyone in the lunar heavenly sect knew that such a thing was simply unrealistic. Not to mention whether the other 4 sect masters would agree. Li Cangtian, an immortal realm being, would definitely not agree. He was not the lunar heavenly sect master, but a living sect master. The difference between the immortal realm and the immortal realm was like heaven and earth. Even though Li Cangtian had just entered the immortal realm, he was definitely not someone that Yi Xian could resist. Yi Xian dared to say such arrogant words. If he wasn't courting death, what was? At this moment, the 4 sect masters had strange expressions. Logically speaking, it was simply impossible for Yi Xian to take 30% of the spirit vein. However, Yi Xian had just killed the lunar heavenly sect master as a Tao querying realm cultivator. The 4 sect masters could sense that Yi Xian was not simple. At this moment, they were happy to be bystanders and see what Yi Xian would do. 30%. Li Cangtian put on a fake smile. This was no longer a simple discussion on how to divide the spirit vein. It was Yi Xian looking down on his authority. "You are just a puny Tao querying realm cultivator. You only killed the lunar heavenly sect master and you dare to ask for 30%. Aren't you afraid of death?" Boom! The immortal divine light pierced through the galaxy. That immortal divine might was released, causing the mountains and rivers to rumble. Li Cangtian was truly enraged because Yi Xian was challenging his authority. He was the leader of the 6 major sections. Although Li Cangtian did not dare to say that he controlled the 6 major sects, his words were absolute. If he did not teach Yi Xian a lesson, how would he be able to control the 6 major sects? "Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? You want to kill me? Can you do it?" Yi Xian stood up slowly. His eyes were like the stars in the sky. A wisp of gray light circulated around his body and his aura was rising terrifyingly. After devouring the cultivation base of the lunar heavenly sect master, Yi Xian might not have stepped into the Tao comprehending realm, but his cultivation base was condensed and the energy in his body was compressed to the extreme. "Lad, no matter what your identity is, I don't care where you came from. I'm afraid it's impossible for you to leave safely today." Boom! Li Cangtian took a step forward and the entire lunar immortal mountain trembled. The ground beneath his feet cracked like a spider web and the terrifying cracks continued to spread out in all directions. "Sure, I would like to see if you have the capability to do so." Boom! Yi Xian stood up slowly. The heaven burial technique was circulating furiously in his body. His essence, energy and spirit were raised to the extreme. This was the first time Yi Xian was using his true cultivation base to fight against an immortal realm cultivator. This battle would test his true strength and was also an opportunity for him to step into the Tao comprehending realm. Chapter 1405. Yi Xian wasn't too sure how strong the Immortal Realm was, but he'd seen some of the veteran Immortal Realm experts from the Heaven-Mending sect. In Yi Xian's opinion, they were simply invincible. Even if it was the current him, if he were to face an experienced Immortal Realm expert like Sect Master Wuxia, Yi Xian wouldn't hesitate to turn around and leave. However, Li Tsangtian had just entered the Immortal Realm and Yi Xian was confident that he could take him on. If he could defeat Li Tsangtian, it would be an unimaginable improvement for Yi Xian. Regardless of cultivation or mental state, this battle was too important for Yi Xian. If he could defeat Li Tsangtian, it would mean that he would be qualified to return to the Central Great Region when he stepped into the Immortal Realm. Even if he had to face veteran Immortal Realm experts like Sect Master Wuxia, he would still be able to wrestle with them and he would have the confidence to protect himself. Moreover, once Yi Xian stepped into the Immortal Realm, he would be qualified to pursue the seed of the strongest throughout the ages and fight with them head-on. Brat, you have successfully angered me. Let me send you on your way. Li Tsangtian said coldly as his Immortal Realm aura pierced through the sky. He extended his 5 fingers towards Yi Xian and the heaven and earth seemed to freeze as a terrifying giant hand pressed down on Yi Xian. Star River Blade. In terms of secret techniques, Yi Xian wasn't afraid of anyone. At this moment, his essence, energy and spirit were at the peak and he could casually execute a primal chaos grand technique. This was also his Tao. Rumble. The 9 rivers Star River swept through the heaven and earth and the primal chaos heavenly river pierced through the past and present. Thousands of miles of Star River cascaded down from the primal chaos starry sky and blasted a hole in the firmament. Qi. Just as Yi Xian had said, the Star River cascaded down on Li Tsangtian and turned into a blade radiance. The blade radiance was invincible and it slashed down on Li Tsangtian. Be careful. The expressions of the 4 sect leaders changed drastically. They all unleashed unparalleled great techniques to cover the entire Divine Taiyin Mountain. This was because the attacks from the 2 of them were too terrifying. The disciples of their sects were all here. If they did not do anything to protect them, they would definitely be reduced to ashes by the attacks from the 2 of them. Bang! The gigantic heavenly palm and galaxy saber clashed together and millions of miles of heaven and earth trembled. Yi Xian and Li Tsangtian were both sent flying, crashing into countless mountains. Yi Xian turned around and returned. His entire body was as terrifying as a star as he pounced towards Li Tsangtian with unparalleled killing intent. How could he be at a disadvantage? You're courting death. Li Tsangtian was enraged. Although he expected Yi Xian to be strong, he didn't expect Yi Xian to be so strong that he could withstand his immortal great technique. This made him gradually treat Yi Xian as an opponent on the same level. Kill. Heaven-cleaving blade, immortal god's might. That milky white halo scattered around Li Tsangtian's body as mysterious runes lit up in front of him. His aura was even more terrifying than before. What was immortal? It existed with heaven and earth and revered with the universe. As long as the chaotic universe wasn't destroyed, immortals could exist forever. After stepping into the immortal realm, one would begin to comprehend the profound meaning of the chaotic laws and begin to touch the so-called chaotic laws. Every great technique was in accordance with the principles of the chaotic universe and its power was extremely terrifying. Qi. Similarly, the galaxy had transformed into a blade but Li Tsangtian's blade had thrown the universe into chaos. Even the stars in the chaotic starry sky were being annihilated into ashes. When the blade radiance appeared, billions of cold mountains were trembling non-stop. It was as though this blade could destroy the world. Tribulation Transcender Transformation. Yi Xian's eyes gradually turned blood-red as he let out a ferocious roar. His 3,000 strands of hair violently fluttered in the wind. The tribulation immortal transformation had been raised to the limit by him, and his terrifying aura and combat strength were steadily rising. Because Yi Xian felt the pressure and the smell of death. Although the smell of death was very faint, it was indeed something that existed. No matter who you are, no matter what your identity is, even if you are the strongest seed of the central domain, you are only at the path-seeking realm. In front of an immortal, you are like an ant. I only need one saber to kill you. Li Tsangtian was laughing maniacally. The heaven and earth blade was humming terrifyingly and the billions of clouds in the sky were completely shattered. Even the boundless void was gradually collapsing, proving just how terrifying Li Tsangtian's cultivation was. At this moment, even though Yi Xian had used the tribulation immortal transformation and increased his combat strength to an extremely terrifying level, he could feel that he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand this blade strike. This was because his opponent's cultivation and realm were too much higher than his. However, there wasn't the slightest bit of fear on Yi Xian's face. This was because what he wanted was precisely this kind of life and death tempering. Only in the instant of life and death would he be able to sublimate his spirit and truly step into the Tao comprehending realm. Come! Yi Xian stood against the wind, his black robe fluttering wildly. He wanted to take this saber head-on and welcome the opportunity to step into the Tao comprehending realm. I'll send you on your way. Slash! Heaven and earth roared as the saber light shocked the world. This saber was an immortal saber and contained the truth of chaos. Anyone below the immortal realm would become a ghost under this saber. No one could survive. Chi! The world-shocking saber light slashed down towards Yi Xian. The terrifying saber light crushed mountains and rivers, and just its aura alone caused the earth to collapse. The saber energy that could annihilate everything was spent between heaven and earth, causing the void in all directions to begin to explode. Bury the heavens and destroy the earth, invulnerable to all techniques. Yi Xian didn't dodge at all. Instead, his eyes turned scarlet and his expression was frantic. His hands formed a mysterious seal and a gray light completely covered him. This was the heaven-burying technique, and it was also an otherworldly technique. It contained Yi Xian's technique and Tao, and even condensed the Tao fruits of his life. He really wanted to see if the technique he created could withstand an immortal strike. Boom! The immortal saber light finally slashed down on Yi Xian's body. His entire body was drowned in the saber light as if his entire body was annihilated by this saber. Mr. Such a scene made even Fatso Huang, who was full of confidence in Yi Xian, cry out in sorrow. His face was extremely pale. Clang! Suddenly, Gu Beichen's expression was as cold as a 1,000-year-old river. A black saber appeared in his hand. His originally calm eyes instantly turned blood red and a wisp of terrifying demonic chi began to roll in his eyes. An immortal is an immortal. How can a Tao-querying realm cultivator defeat him? The extreme young sect master sighed. Even if this person has a great background, he is too arrogant and still fell in the hands of Li Tsangtian. This is his fate. The Flying Saint sect master sighed again and again. Although Li Tsangtian has just entered the immortal realm, he is still a sect master level existence. If this person wants to go against him, it's no different from courting death. Jiu Chu's sect master shook his head helplessly. At this moment, several sect masters had sentenced Yi Xian to death because even if they joined forces to withstand Li Tsangtian's attack, they wouldn't dare to say that they could survive. No matter how strong Yi Xian was, he definitely wouldn't be able to survive. Look! Suddenly, Sect Master Corpse Kuei trembled as he roared. He suddenly pointed in Yi Xian's direction, causing everyone to be stunned. They immediately looked in Yi Xian's direction. Clang clang clang. The saber radiance clanged and a terrifying ear-piercing sound was heard continuously. An extremely terrifying scene appeared before everyone's eyes. Under the slash of the immortal saber radiance, a figure was roaring furiously. Although the gray light around him was flickering, he still managed to block the world-ending saber radiance. Even though the immortal saber radiance was bursting with boundless power, it still couldn't kill him completely. How is this possible? Li Tsangtian roared in shock. He had used a total of 80% of his cultivation for this slash. Not to mention those below the immortal realm, even those who were at the same level as him wouldn't dare to say that they would be unharmed. But what did he see? Although Yi Xian was bitterly resisting and the light around his body seemed like it was about to shatter at any moment, he was still able to block Li Tsangtian's blade. Furthermore, the thing that caused Li Tsangtian to feel the most fear was that Yi Xian was currently laughing at him. Yes. Li Tsangtian didn't see wrongly. Yi Xian was indeed smiling at him, and it was a cruel and sinister smile. This smile sent chills down Li Tsangtian's spine as his hair stood on end and an indescribable fear grew in his heart. Chapter 1406. Fear. It was a simple word, but it was filled with the fear of the unknown. Li Tsangtian didn't want himself to be afraid, and he didn't want himself to tremble. But now, he couldn't control himself because Yi Xian's eyes were staring at him like a venomous snake. His heart was trembling and his body was trembling. He didn't want himself to be in such a state, and he wanted to remove the fear, but he realized that he couldn't do it. What kind of eyes were those? Fierce, crazy, sinister, and bloody. If it was just those, Li Tsangtian wouldn't feel fear. What Li Tsangtian saw was that Yi Xian's eyes contained a domineering aura that he couldn't understand. It was as though he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered and Yi Xian was a terrifying butcher. As long as Yi Xian waved the butcher's knife, Li Tsangtian would be dead in the next moment. Go and die. When the fear reached its peak, Li Tsangtian went crazy. This formless fear was tormenting him, and it forced him to shift his gaze away. He used all his cultivation to send the immortal blade light towards Yi Xian. Zzz. When Li Tsangtian erupted with his full cultivation, the immortal blade light shone brightly. The dazzling and flawless heaven and earth blade light once again pressed towards Yi Xian, causing the grey light around Yi Xian to shatter inch by inch. Die, go and die. Li Tsangtian roared hysterically as he looked at Yi Xian with a venomous gaze. Yi Xian actually made him feel fear, and only by killing Yi Xian would he be able to dispel this fear. My heart is the heart of heaven and my Tao is the great Tao. What is the meaning of Tao enlightenment? What I have comprehended is merely my life and my invincible heart. My heart has never changed, so how can I comprehend Tao? Suddenly, Yi Xian laughed sinisterly. Under the pressure given by Li Tsangtian, his entire body was sublimated. In the midst of his predicament, he finally grasped the opportunity to step into the Tao comprehension realm. Rumble. The Tongtian of the heaven-burying divine light pierced through the ground, and a grey mist rose into the sky. A wisp of indescribable qi grew around Yi Xian, and the immortal blade radiance that was slashing down on him was actually disintegrating inch by inch. Lawless and out of control, without heaven and earth, I am the sole sovereign. Yi Xian roared at the sky. He was not roaring arrogantly, but he was narrating his own dharma and Tao. He was also witnessing his path of cultivation. The light around Yi Xian's body was as dazzling as the sun. That terrifying fluctuation spread out in all directions, causing the minds of all living beings to tremble to the extreme. Bang! In the next moment, Yi Xian's body shook and the immortal blade radiance that was slashing towards him shattered. The dense heaven-burying divine radiance enveloped him as he walked towards Li Tsangtian. Dong! 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 Heaven and earth trembled and the void rumbled. With every step that Yi Xian took, the void beneath his feet exploded. His aura was rising rapidly, causing Li Tsangtian's face to turn extremely gloomy. Mountain, river, heaven and earth. Li Tsangtian roared in anger. He had actually brought out his own immortal world. Heaven and earth within 100 million miles were distorted at this moment, and magnificent scenes of mountains and rivers were born. The immortal world was the source of the great Tao. When a cultivator stepped into the Saint King realm, they would open up their own world. As their cultivation rose, the world they opened up would also be constantly perfected. As an immortal realm cultivator, Li Tsangtian's world had already been formed. This was also his final trump card. Either Yi Xian died, or he died. Rumble. The magnificent mountains and rivers suppressed all living things. Li Tsangtian's immortal world was too terrifying. It was the condensation of his life's Tao and Tao. It was also the product of his extreme sublimation. Even if it was an immortal realm cultivator, facing Li Tsangtian's immortal world, they would definitely retreat and not dare to perish together with him. After all, if he brought out his own world to fight, it would either be his death or his. Boom! In the next moment, Yi Xian was trapped in Li Tsangtian's immortal world. In Li Tsangtian's immortal world, he was the supreme existence. Even though Yi Xian had just broken through to the Tao comprehending realm and his body had undergone a terrifying growth, he still felt extremely heavy pressure. It was difficult to move an inch, as though he was stuck in a quagmire. Even breathing was difficult. This was Yi Xian's most realistic feeling at this moment. Immortal world suppresses all living things. Even if you are a heaven-defying genius, in my immortal world, you will still turn into ashes. Li Tsangtian stood proudly in the void. He looked down at Yi Xian as his voice rang out in the entire immortal world. In the world that he had opened up, Li Tsangtian was the supreme existence. No one could go against his will. With the might of his immortal world, he could even kill someone of the same cultivation level. Immortal world. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. The cultivation in his body was stagnant. He felt as though he was carrying the weight of an eternal sky, and even taking a step forward was extremely difficult. However, Yi Xian wasn't afraid at all. Instead, his lips curled into a cruel smile. If Li Tsangtian fought with him, even if he couldn't win against him, with his immortal realm cultivation, he could still escape. After all, even though Yi Xian's fighting strength was heaven-defying, it wasn't realistic for him to stop an immortal realm cultivator. However, Li Tsangtian had brought out his immortal world and wanted to kill him in a frenzy. This meant that only one of them could survive today. Immortal world, suppress all things. Li Tsangtian didn't say any more nonsense. He raised his 5 fingers and the entire immortal world shone brightly. The terrifying power of the immortal world crushed towards Yi Xian. You're really naive. At this critical moment, the cruel smile on Yi Xian's face grew wider and a sinister light flashed across his eyes. Attack! Roar! It was as if an ancient vicious beast was roaring, as if taboo words were being spoken. Yi Xian's aura instantly soared, and the taboo attack character technique was activated. Combined with the Calamity Transcender Transformation's Heaven Burial technique, Yi Xian was able to resist the suppression of the world. The attack art was a forbidden technique passed down to Yi Xian by the Eternal Shadow. It was known as the 3rd greatest offensive technique of all time and had an unfathomable forbidden power. This forbidden technique was too terrifying. When Yi Xian used it, even the immortal world couldn't suppress him. How is this possible? Li Tsangtian's face changed. He didn't expect Yi Xian to be so terrifying. Even if he brought out his immortal world, he still couldn't suppress Yi Xian. 12 Yuan Hui. Suddenly, under Li Tsangtian's dumbfounded state, Yi Xian roared ferociously. Terrifying stars lit up behind him and a total of 12 stars revolved around him. Chaotic Universe, 12 Yuan Hui. This was the supreme world created by Yi Xian. The 12 stars represented each Yuan Hui and it could be said to encompass the entire chaotic universe. How could Li Tsangtian's immortal world compare to the power of the immortal world? Chapter 1407. Kill. The heavens and earth were in chaos as the 12 stars rumbled. The aura that could shake the ages was released to the extreme. The 12 stars lined up in an orderly manner as they smashed towards Li Changtian. Although they were both using the power of the world, Li Changtian's immortal world was too low grade and couldn't be compared to the chaotic 12 Yuanhui world. How could a small immortal world contain the entire chaotic universe? Of course, Li Changtian was in the immortal realm after all. Although his world was low grade, it had already started to take shape and was able to withstand the impact of the chaotic 12 Yuanhui world. But at the next moment, Li Changtian's face turned pale and he let out an indignant roar. Attack! Conquering the primal chaos, destroying everything in all directions. The attack character formula was actually used on the 12 huge stars. That ancient aura of attack burst forth and everywhere it passed, the immortal world was on the verge of crumbling. No matter how Li Changtian tried to suppress it, he was unable to slow down the signs of the world collapsing. Bang bang bang. The most terrifying thing happened. The 12 stars ignored all obstacles and smashed onto Li Changtian's body, causing him to spurt out blood and his immortal world was instantly destroyed. Chi. Blood dyed the sky and Li Changtian's body was badly damaged. His world was destroyed and he was on the verge of death. He was like a kite with a broken string as he fell towards the mountain peak. Bang! There was a loud sound as Li Changtian smashed into the mountain peak. Large amounts of blood dyed the mountain peak red and blood was flowing out from his mouth. He looked extremely miserable. Rumble. Stepping on the heavens and earth, Yi Xian descended from the heavens and appeared before Li Changtian. The 12 stars around him rumbled and rotated, causing others to feel reverence in their hearts. Bang! The 6 desires were emotionless and the heaven and earth were heartless. Yi Xian stepped on Li Changtian's head and his lips curled into a sinister smile. Ah! In the next moment, Li Changtian roared in grief and indignation. Because Yi Xian's foot was ruthlessly crushing his face, one could even hear the sound of bones shattering inch by inch. His head and cheeks were faintly caving in as large amounts of blood flowed out from his face. Silence, silence, a deathly silence. When this scene appeared before the eyes of the disciples of the 6 sects, all of them were dumbfounded and rooted to the ground like clay puppets. Only the sound of gasps could be heard. Everyone looked at Yi Xian with eyes filled with indescribable fear and shock. Not to mention the disciples of the 6 sects, even the 4 sect masters were pale. They couldn't help but take a few steps back. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. They couldn't believe it at all. What kind of joke was this? To think that a dignified immortal realm expert, a sect master level figure, would actually be trampled beneath the feet of a Tao querying realm cultivator. This had completely toppled their understanding of the world, and made them feel that this was simply a fantasy story. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that such a ridiculous thing could happen. Even if Li Changtian had just entered the immortal realm, he was still a realm higher than Yi Xian. Moreover, the gap between the immortal realm and the Tao querying realm was like heaven and earth. It was almost impossible to break through. But even if they didn't want to believe it, they had to because the truth was right in front of them. Fear, shock, speechlessness, and even reverence. These were the emotions of the 4 sect masters and the disciples of the 6 sections. Everyone looked at Yi Xian with eyes filled with extreme fear. If Li Changtian was a god in their eyes, an unreachable god that needed to be revered, then Yi Xian was a god slayer. When he waved his butcher's knife, it could be said that he was slaying a god to prove his Tao. Little brat Yi Tian, kill me if you can. Li Changtian roared in grief and anger under Yi Xian's feet. That venomous roar was extremely mournful. He had been defeated, thoroughly defeated. Moreover, he had been defeated in the hands of a Tao querying realm cultivator. Many years later, he would be nailed to the pillar of shame and become the laughing stock of the North Star region. His world had been destroyed and his Tao had been severed. Even if he could survive, he would never be able to take another step forward. This blow had caused Li Tsangtian to lose the courage to continue living. Kill you? No, no, no. No matter what, you are still an immortal sect master. Wouldn't it be a pity if I killed you so easily? Yi Xian continued to stomp on Li Tsangtian's head as he spoke sinisterly. As Yi Xian spoke, he flipped his hand and a gourd appeared. As he opened the gourd, a terrifying suction force appeared and directly sucked Li Tsangtian into the gourd. After Yi Xian finished doing all of this, he smiled as he looked at the four great sect masters. The originally domineering aura around him also dissipated, but the four great sect masters' faces were deathly pale as they unconsciously took a step back. Fellow Daoists' cultivation is unfathomable and we are extremely impressed. Fellow Daoist should be able to take 40% of the spirit vein. We are sincerely convinced. Flying Saint Sect Master forced a smile and the other three sect masters hurriedly nodded in agreement. The four great sect masters could tell that Yi Xian was completely fearless. It was one thing to kill the lunar sect master, but now even Li Tsangtian was defeated by him. Although Li Tsangtian wasn't dead yet, the four great sect masters could imagine his tragic end. Ferocious man, a ferocious man. This was the definition that the four sect masters gave to Yi Xian. Sect Master Yi, if there is nothing else, we will take our leave. Jiu Chu sect master forced a smile. She felt extremely uncomfortable every time she stayed with Yi Xian, as though Yi Xian could swallow them up any time. Fellow Taoists, isn't it a little inappropriate for you to leave just like that? Yi Xian strolled towards the four sect masters. This caused their expressions to change as they instantly unleashed their cultivation and looked at Yi Xian solemnly. Sect Master Yi, the four of us did not offend you. Previously, when you wanted to take 30% of the spirit vein, we did not object. Now, we are even willing to give 40% of the spirit vein to the lunar sect. Fellow Taoist, why do you have to make things difficult for us? Solar Sect Master said solemnly. Obviously, the four sect masters thought that Yi Xian wanted to kill them and were extremely nervous, afraid that Yi Xian would attack them. If Yi Xian did not have the battle record of defeating Li Tsangtian, the four sect masters would only be wary of Yi Xian. But after seeing Li Tsangtian's tragic end, the four of them knew that even if they joined forces, they might not be a match for Yi Xian. Fellow Taoists, you've misunderstood. Actually, I only want to discuss some things with the four of you. I have no enmity with the four of you, so how could I possibly attack you? Yi Xian lightly smiled. As Yi Xian's words landed, the four of them were stunned and their auras were slightly stifled. Obviously, they did not understand what Yi Xian wanted to do. Sect Master Yi, you mean? Jiu Chu Sect Master probed. The North Region Alliance cannot be without a leader. Since the four of you are here today, I think we can discuss who the new leader of the North Region Alliance will be. Yi Xian smiled. Looking at Yi Xian's smiling face, the four sect masters were enlightened and instantly understood what Yi Xian meant. He wanted to be the leader of the alliance. The four sect masters looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. Li Tsangtian had already fallen into Yi Xian's hands and most likely would not be able to survive. The North Region Alliance was indeed going to become a pile of loose sand. At this moment, Yi Xian wanted to be the leader of the alliance. Although they were extremely unwilling, they did not dare to refute. Under the eaves, they had no choice but to lower their heads. The four sect masters knew that if they refuted, they would definitely attract Yi Xian's killing intent. Of course, the position of the alliance leader belongs to Sect Master Yi. We of the 6 sects have no objections. Corpse Kuei Sect Master forced a smile. That's right. Only Sect Master Yi is qualified for the position of the alliance leader. Solar Sect Master faked a smile. Under the leadership of Alliance Leader Yi, our North Region Alliance will definitely be able to reach a higher level. Flying Saint Sect Master hurriedly added. Looking at the hypocritical faces of the four sect masters, Yi Xian's lips curled into a strange smile. No, no, no. The four of you have misunderstood. What I mean is that the North Region Alliance is only formed by the 6 sections. Even if it is an alliance, it is still a pile of loose sand. If the 6 sects become one, wouldn't that be a great blessing? As Yi Xian's words landed, the 4 sect masters' expressions changed and the atmosphere suddenly fell into an extremely oppressive atmosphere. Chapter 1408. No one would have thought that Yi Xian's ambition was so huge that he wanted to swallow up the remaining 5 sections. This was something that the 4 sect masters could not accept. Li Tsangtian was originally extremely overbearing and was used to acting arbitrarily. But today, the 4 sect masters had seen for themselves that Li Tsangtian paled in comparison to Yi Xian. How was Yi Xian ambitious enough to become the leader of the North Region Alliance? It was clear that he wanted to annex the 6 major sects and completely controlled the 6 major sects in his own hands. The atmosphere was so tense that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. The 4 sect masters' faces were as dark as water and there was uncontrollable anger in their eyes. What kind of joke was this? If the 6 sects were to merge into one, then what were the 4 sect masters? Were they going to become Yi Xian's slaves and allow Yi Xian to order them around? And after the 6 sects merged into one, Yi Xian would naturally become the new sect master. Wouldn't they have to listen to Yi Xian's orders and not even be able to protect their own sects? Why, are the 4 of you not willing? Yi Xian was originally smiling, but his smile gradually faded away. The expression on his face became colder and colder, and a trace of fierceness gradually emerged. Threat. An undisguised threat. An undisguised threat. When Yi Xian revealed a ferocious look, it was obviously telling the 4 sect masters that there was no room for negotiation in this matter. You. The solar sect master's temper was the most fiery. He looked at Yi Xian with an ashen face and his Dao integration realm cultivation base was faintly seeping out. It was obvious that Yi Xian's wild ambition had aroused his desire to resist. Do you have something against me? Yi Xian's eyes narrowed as he slightly raised his 5 fingers. A terrifying ball of light condensed in his palm. As long as the Sun sect leader dared to say no, he would explode in the next moment and turn this person into ashes in the shortest amount of time possible. Yi Daoyu, please don't blame us. How about you allow us to think about it? The Flying Saint sect master quickly stood in front of the Extreme Yang sect master and said to Yi Xian with a forced smile. Obviously, he didn't want to fight with Yi Xian. After all, the Lunar sect master and Li Tsangtian were examples. Yi Daoyu, the unification of the 6 sects is a huge matter. It's not something we can easily decide. Why don't you give us a month's time to discuss it with the sect elders? We'll give you an answer after a month, okay? Sect Master Jiu Chu said with a forced smile. A month? Yi Xian nodded slowly. He looked at the 4 sect masters and said, all right, I'll give the 4 of you some face. We'll reunite here a month later. I hope the 4 of you won't disappoint me then. Men, bring these 4 fellow Taoists back to the sect to rest. As for the disciples of the other 5 sects, make sure to settle them down properly. Do not neglect our esteemed guests. Yi Xian waved his hand, and Fatty Huang hurriedly agreed. He directly arrived in front of the 4 great sect masters and made an inviting gesture. Obviously, it was impossible for the 4 sect masters to leave the Lunar Sky sect. The 4 sect masters' faces were as gloomy as water. They knew that Yi Xian was putting them under house arrest. If they forced their way out, they would definitely provoke Yi Xian to attack them. Then we'll have to trouble your sect. The 4 sect masters looked at each other and cupped their hands at Yi Xian. Then, they followed Fatso Huang to the Lunar Sky sect. As for the disciples of the other 5 sects, they were settled down by the supreme elders. This time, the Northern Region Alliance Grand Ceremony ended hastily. Snow Bamboo Peak. The weather today was exceptionally clear. Even the cold whistling north wind was much weaker. Yi Xian stood on the peak of the mountain with his hands behind his back. Two figures were shooting toward him. "Sir!" A familiar voice sounded behind Yi Xian. This also made Yi Xian smile and look back. It was Gu Beichen, whom he had not seen for many years. Fatso Huang was smiling at the side. The three of them were finally together. "Good boy, after so many years, you've actually stepped into the Saint King realm. You really didn't let me down." Yi Xian strolled to Gu Beichen and patted him on the shoulder affectionately. "Sir, originally, Fatso Huang informed me that you were in the Lunar Sky sect. I wanted to come early, but it just so happened that the Northern Region Alliance Grand Ceremony started. That's why I can reunite with you now." Gu Beichen grinned. He was also extremely excited. From the human world to the chaotic world, the three of them could be said to have been companions all the way. Along the way, they had experienced countless life and death situations. Although they seemed to be master and servant, they were actually brothers. On this day, the three of them sat together, drinking and chatting merrily. It could be said that it was extremely lively and also extremely emotional. The three of them told each other about their past over the years, and laughter came from their mouths from time to time. "Sir, why didn't you suppress them with force just now and completely unify the six sects? Instead, you gave them a month to consider. I was afraid that things would change if we delayed." Fatso Huang put down his wine glass and finally asked the question in his heart. "Yes, sir. According to your temperament, you wouldn't give them time to consider at all. It's better to suppress them directly. That way, you can avoid a lot of trouble." Gu Beichen agreed. "Ha!" Yi Xian smiled slightly and said with a slightly deep look in his eyes, "The six sects are deeply rooted in the Beichen star field. If suppressing them with force alone can unify the six sects, then Litsang Tian can do it too. The four sect masters are all in the path integration realm. If they have enough opportunities, they can all step into the immortal realm. This is also the reason why Litsang Tian doesn't dare to suppress them with force. If one of them steps into the immortal realm, it will become a hidden danger for Litsang Tian." At this point, Yi Xian paused slightly and a strange look flashed across his eyes. "Moreover, I gave them a month's time to expose all kinds of heresy. It is also a hope for them. Only when they see hope and destroy it with their own hands can they completely submit to me." Gu Beichen was slightly shocked. "Sir, you mean that they don't intend to submit to you at all and will look for reinforcements within this month?" "That's right. I'm also giving them another chance." Yi Xian's lips curled into a playful smile. "But sir, if they really get a terrifying immortal realm expert, then wouldn't you?" Fatso Huang's expression changed slightly and he stopped talking. Indeed, Yi Xian defeated Litsang Tian, and this was indeed an impressive achievement. However, one shouldn't forget that Litsang Tian had just entered the immortal realm and was at the bottom of the immortal realm. If the four sect masters really invited a powerful immortal realm expert, given Yi Xian's current cultivation, he would most likely be in trouble. "You guys overestimate the four sect masters." Yi Xian smiled disdainfully and then slowly explained the whole story. Firstly, the Beichen star field was bitterly cold and cultivation resources were scarce. This was also why there were very few immortal realm experts. Moreover, there were three major sects in the Beichen star field, and it could be said that they ruled the entire Beichen star field. The terrifying immortal realm experts only existed in the three major sections. Even if there were immortal realm experts in the outside world, their cultivation wouldn't be that high. Chapter 1409. Even though there were other undying beings in the North Star field, Yi Xian guessed that they were not much stronger than Li Tsangtian. Moreover, he had already entered the Tao comprehending realm. In the worst-case scenario, even if he could not kill Li Tsangtian, Yi Xian would be invincible. However, there was one thing that Yi Xian did not mention. After entering the Tao comprehending realm, he had peeked into the Tao fusing realm. The so-called Tao fusing realm required a spiritual level upgrade. However, Yi Xian was too lazy to comprehend the Tao of heaven and earth. He only believed in himself. Moreover, Yi Xian discovered something very interesting. Although his cultivation level was not high, his battle strength was increasing. Otherwise, he would not have been able to defeat Li Tsangtian with just the Tao comprehending realm. Moreover, Li Tsangtian was already imprisoned. It was not that Yi Xian did not kill him out of pity. It was because Yi Xian wanted to devour Li Tsangtian's blood soul essence qi. It was a great supplement. Undying realm. Even though he had just entered the undying realm, the blood soul essence qi in his body was not something a Tao querying realm cultivator could compare to. As long as he devoured Li Tsangtian, Yi Xian believed that his battle strength would skyrocket. This was also the reason why he dared to give the 4 sect masters a month to consider. This month was not only to give the 4 sect masters hope, it was also a process for Yi Xian to devour Li Tsangtian. This was Yi Xian's true intention. Beichen, you are now the #1 spiritual son of the Sun Sky sect. I am afraid that after a month. Yi Xian stopped. Sir, don't worry. I have no relationship with the Sun Sky sect master. Back then, he saw my talent and accepted me into the Sun Sky sect. All these years, I have been fighting for him and plundering large amounts of cultivation resources. We are just using each other. Gu Beichen hurriedly said. That's good. Yi Xian nodded slowly. The last bit of worry disappeared. He was really afraid that Gu Beichen had a deep relationship with the Sun Sky sect. If that happened, he would have to be merciful. After all, Gu Beichen had followed him for so many years. He had to give him some face. However, after hearing Gu Beichen's words, Yi Xian could finally relax. He could continue with his plan to unify the 6 sections. What happened next was very simple. Yi Xian explained some matters and details to the two of them, which allowed them to listen attentively. After that, they both got up and left. As Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen left, Yi Xian's eyes were deep and a gourd appeared in his hand. As he opened the gourd, a gust of smoke spewed out and Li Tsangtian fell out, covered in blood. Who are you? Who are you? Li Tsangtian's eyes were bloodshot. He knew that he wouldn't be able to live, but he didn't want to die with regrets. Even before he died, he wanted to know Yi Xian's true identity. This was because Li Tsangtian was certain that Yi Xian definitely had a great background. There wasn't a single person in the entire North Star domain who could defeat him, an immortal, at the Tao-seeking realm. Such a heaven-defying monster could only appear in the Grand Central region. However, such a person would definitely not come to the North Star region. This was something that Li Tsangtian couldn't understand. Who am I? Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back and looked down at Li Tsangtian. His white teeth were faintly revealed and when Li Tsangtian saw them, he couldn't help but shudder. Before you die, I will be a good person. I believe you should have heard of my name. Yi Xian said indifferently. Who are you? Li Tsangtian stared fixedly at Yi Xian, his eyes as red as blood. Yi Xian. Yi Xian said softly. Yi Xian. Li Tsangtian was stunned because he seemed to have heard of this name before but he couldn't recall where. However, in the next moment, Li Tsangtian's expression froze as though he was struck by lightning. He looked at Yi Xian abruptly and a look of extreme shock flashed across his eyes. Yi Xian. You are the Yi Xian who killed the Lord of the Extreme Devil. Li Tsangtian stammered as he stared at Yi Xian. He couldn't believe that he would meet such a legendary person. Seems like you have heard of my name. Yi Xian nodded slowly. Boom! Li Tsangtian's mind exploded and he was trembling to the extreme. Yi Xian admitted his identity and he finally confirmed it. An extremely bitter expression surfaced on his face. I didn't lose unjustly at all. How could I be a match for someone who could kill an immortal and shake the entire chaotic universe? Li Tsangtian laughed self-deprecatingly. It's just that I don't understand. Millions of years ago, everyone said that you were dead and your soul scattered in the universe. How could you appear in the North Star domain? In the next moment, Li Tsangtian roared with resentment. After knowing Yi Xian's identity, his heart was filled with fear and unwillingness. Why would he meet such a legendary person? If he knew his identity, he wouldn't have interacted with Yi Xian at all. Ha! Looking at Li Tsangtian's unwilling, resentful expression, Yi Xian lightly said, I've already been very merciful to you. I'll mercifully tell you who killed you. As for why I appeared in the Northern Star region, do you think you have the qualifications to know? Yi Xian, don't be too proud. Even if I die in your hands today, you will die without a burial place in the future. You will eventually become a skeleton under someone's feet. Li Tsangtian cursed with resentment. There are many people who have cursed me to die a horrible death. You are definitely not the first, and definitely will not be the last. However, you can go in peace, because your death can also help me complete my cultivation. This is also your honor. Roar! In the next moment, Yi Xian opened his mouth wide and a terrifying black fog spread out, instantly drowning Li Tsangtian. Ah! Li Tsangtian screamed miserably because the combination of the Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic skill was too vicious. It could cruelly deprive a person of their flesh, soul, and cultivation. It could be said that death was better than living. You will die a horrible death. Li Tsangtian's flesh and blood continued to melt and his cultivation gushed out. A long river of blood whistled towards Yi Xian and was directly swallowed into his mouth. This caused Yi Xian's body to swell crazily as a terrifying and ferocious aura surged out. Time passed bit by bit and a white skeleton appeared. Li Tsangtian's soul had already dissipated between heaven and earth. As a gust of wind blew, the white skeleton turned into dust and drifted away. His ending could be said to be too horrible to look at. Who? A mouthful of majestic blood qi was spat out from Yi Xian's mouth. His body swelled and his face was flushed red. He was not shocked by Li Tsangtian's death at all. Yi Xian sat cross-legged and began to refine Li Tsangtian's cultivation. The heaven burial technique rumbled in his body and his entire body was covered by a dusky light, causing people to feel a sense of fear when looking at him from afar. Chapter 14:10 Four Seasons Pavilion. The night was like water, the moon hung high in the sky, and the candlelight was swaying slightly. The four sect masters sat opposite each other, each of their faces extremely gloomy, and an extremely solemn atmosphere was quietly growing. You've gone too far. Bang! The extreme young sect master slammed the table and stood up, his face was green and red. This Yi Tian is too ambitious. He doesn't want the 6 sects to merge into one, he wants to swallow up our 5 sects and become the sect master of the 6 sections. The Flying Saint sect master said gloomily. Alright, what's the use of saying this now? We still have a month, we must find a way to deal with this person. The Jiu Chu sect master said coldly. It's easy for you to say. Even Li Tsangtian was defeated by this person. I'm afraid he's in danger now. Where are we going to find someone who can kill him? The Corpse sect master said. The 4 sect masters each expressed their own opinions. Obviously, they were extremely dissatisfied with Yi Xian's ambition to swallow up the 6 sections. Naturally, they were unwilling in their hearts. Who is it? Suddenly, the Jiu Chu sect master narrowed her brows and reached out with one hand. A figure was instantly sucked in by her. When the four sect masters saw who it was, their faces suddenly froze. Lin Qing greets the four seniors. Surprisingly, this person was Lin Qing the disciple of the Moon Sect Master. At this moment, she quickly knelt down in front of the four people, showing her cautiousness. You are the disciple of the Moon Sect Master. The Jiu Chu Sect Master frowned slightly. Yes. Lin Qing quickly responded, showing her utmost respect. Why did you eavesdrop on our conversation? Did Sect Master Yi send you here? The Corpse Sect Master asked with a trace of murderous intent in his eyes. Seniors, please don't misunderstand. I have a grudge against Yi Tian for killing my master. How could I be sent by him? Lin Qing quickly explained. Oh, then why are you here? The Jiu Chu Sect Master gave the three Sect Masters a look, indicating that they should not kill Lin Qing and see what she wanted to do. Seniors, please understand. Yi Tian is a wolf with wild ambitions. Not only did he kill Junior's master, he also wants to annex the 6 sections. Junior can't wait to eat his flesh and drink his blood. How can I associate with him? Today, I came here on the orders of the 4 Supreme Elders. I hope that the 4 Sect Masters can think of a way to expel this person from our Lunar Sky Sect. However, in order to avoid being discovered by Yi Tian, I came here secretly, Lin Qing quickly said. When the 4 sect leaders heard Lin Qing's words, they exchanged glances with each other. A hint of doubt rose in their eyes. Logically speaking, with Yi Tian as the sect leader, the 6 sects would be united under his leadership. This was a great thing for the Lunar Sky Sect. Why would the 4 Supreme Elders take the risk to send Lin Qing to contact them? However, in the next moment, the 4 Sect Masters came to a realization, and a knowing smile appeared on their faces. Obviously, although Yi Xian's combat strength was heaven-defying, he was still an outsider. Now that the Lunar Sky Sect Master was dead, the successor to the position of Sect Master could only be one of the 4 Supreme Elders. If Yi Xian annexed the 6 sects, they would have to be ordered around by him. Naturally, the 4 Supreme Elders would not agree to that. After all, everyone had their own selfish motives, and the 4 Supreme Elders were no exception. No one wanted to be a slave to others. How can it be so easy to expel Yi Tian? Even Li Cangtian was defeated by him. What can we do? Sect Master Jiu Chu's eyes flickered. For Sect Masters, please understand. Our Supreme Elder knows that things are tricky, so he specially sent Junior here to inform you seniors of a piece of news. Perhaps this news will be useful to the 4 Sect Masters. Lin Qing quickly said. Oh, what news? The Solar Sky Sect Master's eyes lit up. 10 years ago, according to the news from my sect's outer sect disciple, an ultimate seed came to the North region from the Central region. Rumor has it that this person came to the North region to train his Dao heart. He should be in the Cold Mist City right now. If we can invite this ultimate seed here, we might be able to resolve this crisis. Lin Qing quickly said. Ultimate seed? Hearing this news, the 4 sect masters were stunned. That's right. She's right. My sect's disciple had also sent back this news, but I thought it was just a rumor. Now, it seems like it might be true. Sect Master Corpse Kue said in a deep voice. But so what if he's an ultimate seed? This Yi Tian can even kill an immortal realm expert. I'm afraid this ultimate seed is no match for him. Sect Master Jiu Chu frowned. Brother Jiu Chu, you don't understand. The ultimate seed is the hope of a sect. He will definitely have a Dao protector by his side. This Dao protector has to be at least an immortal realm expert. As long as we can invite the ultimate seed, this crisis will be resolved. The Solar Sky Sect Master quickly explained. But who's going to invite this ultimate seed? Now that we're all imprisoned here, if we do anything strange, Yi Tian will definitely notice it. Sect Master Jiu Chu said in a deep voice. Isn't she a ready-made candidate? Suddenly, the Flying Saint Sect Master looked at Lin Qing with a smile. This made Lin Qing's expression change. Just as she was about to refuse, she was met with the sharp gazes of the 4 sect masters. Now, the 4 of us can't leave the Lunar Sky sect at all. You're the only one who can go in and out freely. Moreover, you have a grudge against Yi Tian for killing your master. We'll leave this matter to you. The 4 sect masters didn't give Lin Qing a chance to refuse and immediately made the decision. This made the woman's face turn slightly pale, but she still nodded helplessly. I'll take my leave. Lin Qing slipped into the darkness and quietly left the 4 Seasons Pavilion to report this matter to the 4 Grand Elders. However, be it the 4 sect masters or the stealthy Lin Qing, they didn't notice at all that in the distant sky, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen were smiling coldly. A bronze mirror was reflecting the conversation between Lin Qing and the 4 sect masters. The 2 of them had a panoramic view of everything. The entire 4 Seasons Pavilion had been set up with star veins by Yi Xian. Every movement of the 4 sect masters couldn't escape the 2's surveillance. Everything was under Yi Xian's control. Sir was right. Not only are the 4 sect masters restless, even Lin Qing and the 4 Grand Elders are restless. Gu Beichen sneered. Let them be. Let's see what tricks they can play. Fatso Huang smiled sinisterly, a cruel look flashing in his eyes. 4 Seasons Pavilion. The 4 sect masters weren't happy because of Lin Qing's arrival. Instead, the 4 of them looked even more serious. We can't place all our bets on this so-called strongest seed. If the other party isn't willing to help us, we'll be at Yi Tian's mercy in a month's time. Sect Master Corpse Kuei said. That's right. I think so too. Sect Master Flying Saint agreed. Everyone, this is a matter of life and death for our sect. We need to think of a safe way to deal with Yi Tian. Sect Master Solar calmed down as well. Chapter 14:11. Suddenly, Sect Master Jiu Chu said hesitantly, actually, there's someone who might be able to defeat Yi Tian and even kill him. Huh? The 3 sect masters were stunned and looked at Sect Master Jiu Chu. Fellow Daoist Jiu Chu, why did you only mention this now? Why don't you invite him here? Sect Master Solar said impatiently. That's right, fellow Daoist Jiu Chu. If there's really such a person, why didn't you say so earlier? Where is he now? Sect Master Flying Saint asked anxiously. Sigh. Sect Master Jiu Chu sighed and said in a low voice, you all know this person. He's 9 Mountains Loose Cultivator. What? 9 Mountains Loose Cultivator? The 3 sect leaders exclaimed in shock. Obviously, they knew this person as well. However, the 3 sect leaders were all dumbfounded, as if they had heard something unbelievable. Fellow Daoist Jiu Chu, are you sure? Didn't Senior 9 Mountains Loose Cultivator die? Is he still alive? Sect Master Solar said in confusion. Listen to me slowly. Sect Master Jiu Chu sighed and began to tell them some secrets. Immortal Realm, 9 gates of heaven open. The meaning of this sentence was simple. It was about the immortal realm. There were 9 gates of heaven in the immortal realm. Every time a gate of heaven was opened, one's cultivation would undergo a tremendous change. When the 9 gates of heaven were opened and the 9 gates of heaven combined, one could ascend to the seat of the strongest in history. When the gates of heaven were opened, the heavenly core of chaos would appear. The 9 gates of heaven were the 9 gates of heaven of the immortal realm. When the gates of heaven were opened, the 9 gates would combine into one. The heavenly core of chaos was when one achieved Tao and became the strongest in history. The topic was a little off topic. Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator was an immortal realm expert who had opened the third gate of heaven. He was once famous in the North Star starfield. Even the three great sects of the North Star starfield did not dare to provoke him. Unfortunately, Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator was too famous and attracted the attention of a terrifying ancient devil. This ancient devil was an extremely ancient and terrifying figure in the North Star starfield. An unprecedented battle broke out between the two of them. In the end, Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator died in the battle, and the ancient devil escaped with heavy injuries. But now, Sect Master Juku had mentioned Loose Cultivator Nine Mountain. Clearly, Loose Cultivator Nine Mountain was still alive. This made the three sect masters overjoyed. Yi Xian would be dead for sure if Nine Mountains Itinerant Cultivator was there. After all, Nine Mountains Itinerant Cultivator had opened the third gate of heaven. Few people in the entire North Star field were his match. However, before the three sect masters could rejoice, Sect Master Jiao Chu's following words were like a basin of cold water that extinguished the flames in their hearts. It turned out that back then, Nine Mountain Wanderer did not die in the battle with the ancient devil, but his immortal world was destroyed, and his cultivation base was forever stagnant. Furthermore, his injuries were too severe, and he had been struggling at death's door in the depths of the Nine Tunes sect. Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator was hiding in the Nine Tunes sect because the previous sect master Juku and Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator were best friends. Since the previous sect master Juku had died during the Immortal Tribulation, only sect master Juku knew this secret. Fellow Daoist Juku, don't you think your joke is not funny at all? Solar Sect Master said angrily. Solar Sect Master could not be blamed for being so angry. A cultivator's world had been destroyed, and his cultivation base had fallen to the bottom. Even if he could survive, he would not be able to return to the past. If he dared to use his cultivation base, he would definitely die. Even if Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator had opened the third gate of heaven, how could a crippled immortal realm cultivator be Yi Xian's match? This was why the three sect masters were so disappointed. No, you're all wrong. Sect Master Juku slowly shook his head. His expression was extremely solemn. Although Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator's world has been destroyed, his realm is still there. However, as long as he ascends to the extreme, he will definitely be able to return to his former peak. Although this time is only 2 hours, and after 2 hours, his soul will dissipate and he will die. It's enough to kill Yi Tian. What a joke. Solar Sect Master said, would he sacrifice his life for us? Why should he sacrifice his life for us? That's right. The other two sect masters nodded in agreement. Obviously, this was not realistic at all. Fellow Taoists, since I can tell you this secret, I naturally have great confidence. It's only because my master once owed Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator a great favor. Although my master fell under the Immortal Tribulation, Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator owes my Nine Tunes sect a favor. He even promised my Nine Tunes sect that if my Nine Tunes sect is in danger, he will definitely help, Sect Master Juku said firmly. Hearing Sect Master Juku's words, the three of them were overjoyed. However, before the three of them could speak, Sect Master Juku said with a serious expression, although I can ask Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator to help our 6 sects resolve this crisis, my Nine Tunes sect has to pay an Immortal Realm Cultivator. Therefore, my Nine Tunes sect will take 70% of the spiritual vein. What? 70%? The 3 sect masters' expressions changed. Obviously, they could not accept Sect Master Juku's exorbitant demand. Fellow Taoists, please consider it yourselves. Do you want your sect to be annexed by Yi Tian, or do you want to give up 70% of the spiritual vein? Sect Master Juku said firmly. Okay, I agree, Solar Sect Master said, gritting his teeth. Corpse Puppet Sect also agrees. Corpse Puppet Sect Master nodded fiercely. Although he was unwilling, he knew how to choose. As long as Nine Mountains Loose Cultivator can kill this person, 70% of the spiritual vein is fine, Flying Saint Sect Master said in a deep voice. Obviously, they still chose to give up 70% of the spiritual vein when their sect was annexed. After all, the spiritual vein could be slowly annexed in the future. However, if their sect was annexed by Yi Tian, they would have nothing. Okay. As the three sect masters agreed, Sect Master Juku took out a jade token and muttered something. Then, he crushed the jade token in his hand. A faint beam of light shot into the void and disappeared. Clearly, this was a type of communication jade talisman. The person who sent the message was the legendary Nine Mountain Wanderer, a sempiternal realm existence who had once opened 3 heavenly gates. Snow Bamboo Peak. Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back. Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen stood on his left and right. A bronze mirror reflected the faces of the 4 sect masters. Yi Xian and the other 2 heard every word of their conversation. Sir. Fatso Huang's expression changed drastically. He looked at Yi Xian anxiously. Even Gu Beichen's expression turned serious. Open the 3rd gate of heaven. 9 mountains loose cultivator. Yi Xian murmured. A deep look flashed across his eyes. Now, as long as he used a great technique, he could intercept this communication jade token. However, Yi Xian did not do so. Interesting. You really gave me a surprise. Yi Xian smiled and let the jade token leave the Grand Yin Sky sect. However, a malicious look flashed across Yi Xian's eyes. Chapter 14:12. At the same time, Lin Qing also secretly left the sect that night, turning into a cold light and disappearing into the distant horizon. Obviously, she had gone to invite the strongest seed. All of this fell into Yi Xian's eyes, but he did not stop it and allowed the situation to develop. Mister, are you really confident? Fatso Huang frowned. Obviously, the plan of the 4 sect masters had made him serious. What will come will come. If we don't get rid of all the hidden dangers, how can we have a foothold in the Northern Star domain? Yi Xian smiled indifferently. Alright, the 2 of you can go cultivate in peace. There is no need to monitor them during this period of time. I have my own plans for the rest. After Yi Xian finished speaking, he sat cross-legged again. Wisps of gray light lingered around his body as he entered a meditative state. After devouring Li Tsangtian's cultivation, Yi Xian still needed to slowly refine it. Although his cultivation didn't increase in the slightest, the energy within his body had already been compressed to the limit, causing his battle prowess to soar imperceptibly. However, Yi Xian felt that it was a pity. Although the Calamity Transcender technique and the heaven-devouring demonic art were powerful, refining Li Tsangtian's cultivation could only increase his cultivation, and it did not help much in increasing his realm. However, after devouring Li Tsangtian's cultivation, refining the purest power for himself to absorb and refine, this also caused Yi Xian's combat strength to soar. As for that 9 mountains loose cultivator, or the so-called strongest seed in his Tao protector, Yi Xian was still confident in facing him. After all, he also had many trump cards of his own. With his heaven-defying combat strength, he believed that he would not be defeated. As the saying goes, Great Tao Tong Tian, for a person who wanted to become an expert, every challenge was an opportunity, and these opportunities were the methods to strengthen oneself. Yi Xian also wanted to see what 9 mountains loose cultivator, who had opened the 3rd heaven gate, had up his sleeves. This was also to pave the way for his return to the Grand Central region. After all, not only were the Great Central Domain overseen by the strongest throughout the ages, but there were also many great sections. So-called undying beings were not everywhere in the Great Central Domain, but he still had to face them. As Yi Xian entered cultivation, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen also turned and left. However, the 2 of them continued to monitor the situation of the 4 sect masters and the Lunar Sky sect. 9 Melodies sect. There was no sky, no earth, and only silence. This was a space devoid of life, and not even the slightest sound could be heard. The entire pitch-black space was terrifyingly quiet. Chi! Suddenly, a spark of light broke this desolate environment, and a pair of silent eyes lit up in the depths of space. Thump, thump, thump. The quiet and desolate atmosphere was broken. A series of slightly slow footsteps came from the depths of space, and a lifeless figure slowly walked out from the interior of the space. This person's figure was as thin as bones, and his withered yellow hair covered his face. His back was stooped, and his footsteps were very unsteady, as if he was an old man who was about to step into the yellow earth, and could pass away at any time. 9 Melodies is in trouble, and my time is up. The old man's voice was hoarse and stiff, as if he had not spoken for a long time. The eyes covered by the withered hair slowly focused, and a long-lost spark of light gradually gathered in his eyes. Sigh. Since ancient times, he let out a long sigh, and a sorrowful aura faintly overflowed from the old man. A stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and then slowly fell to the ground. A walking corpse, struggling at death's door. I can be considered to have dominated the world in this lifetime, but now, I don't have the slightest bit of my former glory. I'm neither a human nor a ghost. If I continue to live like this, how can I be 9 Mountains Loose cultivator? Forget it, since the 9 Melodies sect is facing a calamity, I'll return the favor and leave my last legend in the northern star field. Cough, cough, cough. 9 Mountains Loose cultivator coughed violently, and a stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, making him look extremely miserable, and also extremely old and weak. Thump, thump, thump. 9 Mountains Loose cultivator walked step by step toward the outside world. Although his steps were unsteady, each step began to become more powerful, and his hunched figure gradually straightened. On this day, 9 Melodies divine sect erupted with light that reached the heavens. The undulating mountain range rumbled and shook. That wisp of immortal divine light was vast and mighty, and an old man was strolling through the heavens toward lunar heaven sect. This was a great figure who had opened the 3rd gate of heaven. When 9 Mountains Loose cultivator walked in the northern star field, it immediately caused a great uproar. On the other side, Lin Qing bowed nervously to one side, and a man in black stood with his hands behind his back, listening to Lin Qing telling him something. God Sun Huaimia, please lend a hand and save our 6 sects from the fire and water. In the future, our 6 sects will definitely not forget your kindness. Lin Qing kowtowed. You said that the other party has the potential of an ultimate seed, and his cultivation has already reached the Tao realm, and he even defeated Li Zhangtian. The man in black slowly turned around and looked at Lin Qing in surprise. If Yi Xian was here, he would definitely realize that the man in black was Zhang Huaimia of the Immortal Heaven Palace. Millions of years ago, he was still at the extreme Yin realm, but now, millions of years later, he had already reached the Tao querying realm, and was one of the ultimate seeds. That's right, the other party has indeed defeated Li Zhangtian, and even killed the master of the lunar heavenly sect, and now he wants to annex the 6 sections. Lin Qing hurriedly replied. To go against an immortal with his Tao realm cultivation, even if he's just at the initial stage of the immortal realm, such a battle record is enough to shock anyone in the Grand Central Territory. Zhang Huaimia's eyes were deep. He truly did not believe what Lin Qing had just said. One must know that even if he was the successor of an utmost powerful orthodoxy and had cultivated the undying immortal scripture, it was still an impossible task for him to go against a never-wither state being and defeat the other party. According to what Zhang Huaimia knew, among the ultimate seeds in the entire Grand Central Territory, there were only a handful of people who could go against an immortal realm cultivator at the Tao querying realm. However, these people were too heaven-defying, and he, Zhang Huaimia, was definitely not one of them. The reason why he came to the North Star Territory was because he knew that the North Star Territory was filled with massacres, and this was the best battlefield for him to quickly raise his cultivation. What's the name of this person? Tsang Huaimie frowned. Yi Tian. Lin Qing hurriedly replied. Yi Tian. Tsang Huaimie's brows were tightly knitted. He had never heard of this name before, and there was no such person among the ultimate seeds. This person is either an old monster, or he's hiding his identity. Otherwise, to be able to go against an immortal realm cultivator at the Dao querying realm, with his combat strength, it's impossible for him to be a nobody. Tsang Huaimie concluded. Chapter 1413. Godchild, please lend our 6 sects a hand. Lin Qing hurriedly asked for help. Alright, I would also like to see who this person is. To think that there would be such a person in this small North Star field. I am very interested in this person. Tsang Huaimie sneered. Thank you, Godchild. Lin Qing finally let out a sigh of relief. Her mission was finally completed. You can leave now. Tomorrow, I will follow you to the Lunar Sky sect. As soon as Tsang Huaimie finished speaking, Lin Qing hurriedly excused herself. As she left, a burly figure quietly appeared behind Tsang Huaimie. Huaimie, why are you meddling in other people's business? This person's body was burly and filled with explosive muscles. His red hair was like a raging fire. Although there was no aura coming from his body, just looking at him would make one feel a sense of reverence. Taoist Scarlet Flame. Immortal Realm Cultivation Base, and an existence who had opened the second gate of heaven. He was also Tsang Huaimie's guardian in the North Star field. Putting aside his identity as a guardian, Taoist Scarlet Flame was also Tsang Huaimie's uncle. It could be said that he treated Tsang Huaimie as his own son. Logically speaking, with Tsang Huaimie's position in the Immortal Heaven Palace, he did not have the qualifications to have a guardian. After all, he was only in the middle among the ultimate seeds. Although he also had an extremely terrifying monstrous talent, he was not the most outstanding among the ultimate seeds. However, Tsang Huaimie had a huge family behind him. This family was comparable to a great sect, and Taoist Scarlet Flame was a member of this family. It could be said that Taoist Scarlet Flame and the family behind him contributed greatly to Tsang Huaimie reaching his current level. Great uncle, the North Star starfield is bitterly cold. Now that someone has suddenly appeared, someone who can defy the immortal realm, your nephew is naturally very curious. I also want to see who this person is. After all, the Great Era struggle has already begun. Everyone is eyeing the position of the strongest in the next Yuan Hui. Perhaps this person will also be my future enemy. Tsang Huaimie said in a deep voice. Huaimie, you are the last hope of our Tsangshi clan. The clan leader went to the ancestral land of the space beasts to ask for a heavenly beast pill for you. He wants you to reach the immortal level in the shortest time possible. Nothing can happen to you during this time. This is why I accompanied you to the North Star field to train, Scarlet Flame Taoist said sternly. Don't worry, great uncle. Your nephew believes that his cultivation base is outstanding amongst the 3 Dao querying realms. Besides, with you by my side, there is no one in the entire Northern Star domain who can threaten us. Even the 3 great sects of the northern region would not dare to offend us. Tsang Huaimie said proudly. Huaimie, you mustn't be complacent. Although the Northern Star field is bitterly cold and there are very few immortal realm cultivators here, it doesn't mean that you and I can do whatever we want. We still have to be careful until the Patriarch asks for the heavenly beast pill. This is the most important thing. Taoist Scarlet Flame sighed. After all, Tsang Huaimie was Taoist Scarlet Flame's favorite nephew. He couldn't bear to be too harsh on him. However, Taoist Scarlet Flame didn't think it was a big deal. There was no harm in accompanying Tsang Huaimie to the Grand Yin Sky sect. In fact, Taoist Scarlet Flame looked down on the immortal realm cultivators of the northern region. After all, it was impossible to create a powerful immortal realm cultivator in such a bitterly cold environment. Moreover, according to Lin Qing, the opponent was only a Tao-querying realm cultivator. With his second gate of heaven opened, killing a Tao-querying realm cultivator was as easy as flicking his finger. Zhang Huaimia wouldn't be in any danger. As for Lin Qing, saying that the opponent defeated Li Zhangtian, Taoist Scarlet Flame thought it was a joke. Although he hadn't seen Li Zhangtian before, Taoist Scarlet Flame had inquired about the power structure of the Northern Star domain. Li Zhangtian had just stepped into the immortal realm 1,000,000 years ago. In his eyes, he wasn't even worth mentioning. He probably wasn't even familiar with the true means of an immortal realm cultivator. It wasn't impossible for him to die in the hands of a Tao-querying realm cultivator. Since we have nothing to do, Uncle will accompany you on a tour of the northern region. Wait for the Patriarch to send us a message to get the heavenly beast pills. Then, we will return to the central region. Taoist Scarlet Flame said in a deep voice. Many thanks, Uncle. San Huaimia bowed. Grand Een Sky Sect, Snow Bamboo Peak. Time passed like water. A month's time passed in the blink of an eye in the eyes of cultivators. The 1-month deadline for Yi Xian and the 4 sect masters had finally arrived. A mouthful of turbid air blasted apart the sea of clouds in front of him. The terrifying air current howled and lasted for a full 10 breaths of time before calming down. At this moment, Yi Xian also slowly opened his eyes. After waiting for a month, Yi Xian had finally refined Li Zhangtian's cultivation for his own use. Although he had only obtained 30% of the pure and flawless cultivation base, it was enough for Yi Xian's combat strength to undergo an earth-shattering change. In fact, according to Yi Xian's thoughts, he should step into the Tao integration stage as soon as possible. Only then would he have enough confidence to fight Nine Mountains' loose cultivator. However, there wasn't enough time now. Stepping into the Tao integration stage wasn't a matter of time. It was a kind of opportunity. Now, Yi Xian didn't even have the time to comprehend the Tao integration stage, let alone the so-called opportunity. Sir. Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen hurried over. Yi Xian also slowly got up. Let's go. Let's see what other tricks the 4 sect masters have up their sleeves. Yi Xian took a step forward and headed towards the heavenly Yi mountain. Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen followed closely behind. The 3 of them instantly disappeared from the snow bamboo peak. Heavenly Yi mountain peak. The 4 sect masters looked calm, but their eyes were filled with anxiety. They kept looking into the distance from the corner of their eyes. Clearly, a month had passed, but Nine Mountains' loose cultivator and the strongest seed had yet to appear. What should we do? Do we really have to submit to him? Flying Saint Sect Master asked anxiously. Fellow Taoist Jiu Chu, will Nine Mountains' loose cultivator come or not? Extreme Yang Sect Master asked. At this moment, Jiu Chu's Sect Master was also frowning. There was panic in her eyes. Clearly, she wasn't sure if Nine Mountains' loose cultivator would come or not. After all, today was a month's time. If Nine Mountains' loose cultivator didn't come, they only had 2 choices. They could either fight to the death with Yi Xian or submit to him. However, they didn't want to do either. At this moment, they were burning with anxiety and were a little flustered. Chi. 3 streams of light shot over. Yi Xian and the other 2 quietly appeared in front of the 4 sect masters. This also made the panicked sect masters' expressions change slightly. They forced themselves to calm down. A month's time is up. Have the 4 of you made your decision? Yi Xian said calmly. Although there was no power around him, his eyes focused on the 4 of them. It could be said that he gave the 4 sect masters a lot of pressure. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.